Adrian's POV. A week. She had been sleeping for a week. The pack doctors could not find anything wrong with her. She looked so peaceful, but I needed her to open her pretty eyes for me. The only reason Faye was still alive was the fact that she was in a worse condition than my beautiful mate. I was surprised when I got the message from Nathan that Lola had fainted again. I was doing some paperwork in the study when I heard his voice in my head. "Yo, Adrian, there's a problem." He sounded a bit nervous and I sat up. "Could it be another rogue attack?" "What's it? Is it another rogue attack?" I asked calmly. "No, man, it's Lola. She collapsed again," he said, and I stood up in one fluid motion from my seat. "Where is she?" I growled out, and I was out of the house in no time. I transformed into my wolf midway and entered the hospital in a hurry. Daxon was agitated and refused to let me take control of my body back. "Buddy, I need to be in charge if we're going to find Lola." I tried to convince him, but he wasn't having any of it. "I need to find Mate. Mate is hurt. I need to find Mate." He kept growling, scaring the nurses and patients in the clinic. It wasn't until Nathan came out to see that I was the one causing chaos in the clinic that I was able to get control of my body. "Lola is well. She's just sleeping," he said with a bow. "Yeah, he has to respect me where there's a lot of people. He might be my best friend, but the pack still places value of respect for the alphas and lunas." "Hear that, buddy? She's awake, and you don't want to scare her when she wakes up to you causing such unrest in the clinic." That was all it took for him to allow me to change back, and Nathan threw a sweatpant and shirt at me. As werewolves, we station clothes everywhere in the pack. Knowing that we could change at any time and rip off the clothes on our body, we put clothes at strategic points so we won't have to be naked for long. "What happened to her?" I asked as we made our way into the clinic. "Faye happened," he said, and I saw red. "I specifically told that bitch to stay away from my mate, and she hurt her again?" I growled loudly. "Take her to the dungeon," I barked out my order before proceeding forward in the direction I could smell Lola from. "I can't take her to the dungeon," Nathan said behind me, and I turned to him with anger running through my veins. How dare he defile my orders, especially when it comes to his Luna? "Did you just defile my orders, Beta?" I asked, letting my alpha voice tone slip into my voice, forcing him into submission. "No, Alpha. You should see for yourself," he said before leading me into a room where I could smell Faye from. I was shocked when I entered the room. "Did you say she had an altercation with Lola?" I asked, and Nathan nodded. I was amazed and I dare say proud of what I saw. Her head was wrapped in a bandage and she looked terrible. What exactly happened? If she's like this, then what situation would Lola be in? I asked in awe. Faye was one of our strongest warriors and had fast healing abilities. It was a shock to me that she wasn't healing fast. It was a greater shock that she was this way because she went up against Lola. That's what everyone is asking. Lola doesn't have a single scratch on her, and well, Faye is like this, he said, and I sensed pride in the way he spoke. I guess he was proud of his Luna, too. I went to where Lola was and met Lila and her friends with her. Lila was crying and kept blaming herself for what happened. I dismissed them and sat with her till Mom and Dad came. "I heard what happened. How's that possible?" Mom said immediately she entered. "Faye is a very good fighter and one of the finest of our pack. How could she be in such a condition, and Lola doesn't seem to be affected one bit?" She asked no one in particular, and we all wondered. I stayed by her side, only leaving to ease myself. If I had to shower, I just did it in the clinic bathroom. I wanted to be there when she opened her eyes. I was getting angry every day, and I was so close to turning the whole hospital upside down. I was angry, but I needed to be strong for her. Mom would cry, but that just pissed me off. I wanted to see her beautiful eyes and her smile, even if it won't be directed at me. After listening to the circumstances surrounding the event that happened, Dad suggested that we bring Serena in, and she agreed to come, but only when Lola woke up. I was so close to losing my shit in the middle of an argument with Mom when I heard her make a sound. I rushed towards her, but she had her eyes closed. I pulled the curtains closed and switched off the light, but it was still bright. After giving her some water, I urged her to open her eyes. I was shocked when I saw the color of her eyes. Her beautiful blue eyes were different from what they used to be. She had one glowing blue eye and one glowing golden eye. I was shocked by this, and Mom gasped behind me too. I'd never seen such eyes on any wolf before, and trust me when I say I'd seen a lot of wolves. The pack doctor came in and said she could be discharged after running a couple of tests on her. She seemed like she wanted to ask questions but kept it in. She asked to go change in the bathroom. Mom and I exchanged looks the moment she was out of sight. "We need Serena here now," I mind-linked Mom, and she nodded like she was thinking the same thing. Lola's POV. I took a deep breath before I opened the door back into the clinic room. All eyes turned on me immediately I entered. Jaden and the girls were already there, and Lila came to me when she got over her shock at my new appearance. I was glad no one said a thing. It would be so bizarre to tell them that I was in the moon goddess's garden, and she made my wolf and I one. "Thank goddess you're okay, girl. Don't you dare pull that kind of trick on me again." She pouted, and I chuckled softly. "I think I like that atmosphere of the clinic. I might come here every now and then," I said with a laugh, but no one found it funny. They all stared at me with a blank look, and I coughed a little before scratching the back of my neck nervously. "Yeah, that wasn't funny. I'm sorry," guys, with a nervous smile and looked down at my feet. "Let's get you home to comfort, Lola," Rose said as she held my second hand and stirred me towards the door. We were already out of the room when I remembered something. "Where's she?" I asked, and they all exchanged looks. "Who, darling?" Rose asked me. "Faye," I answered in a monotonous voice, and they all kept quiet. "What's going on? Why are they quiet? Wait, I did not. She's not dead, right? Please tell me that I did not kill her," I pleaded, tears starting to form in my eyes. I might not like her, but that doesn't mean I wished her dead. A hand wrapped around my waist from behind, and Rose and Lila let go of me. "I'll show you where she is," he whispered, and they must have spoken through the mind link because everybody else left, leaving both of us alone in the clinic corridor. I felt so safe and at peace in his arms as he led me towards where Faye was, yet I refused to look him in the eyes. I did not know why I felt so shy, like I was just meeting him for the first time. He opened a door and led me into the room. I gasped when I saw Faye's condition. She looked lifeless, save the steady rise and fall of her chest. "I did that?" I managed to stutter as I pointed towards her body. I couldn't believe that I put her in the position before me. "Yes, you did, Lola." Adrian spoke before me, and I turned to face him with bated breath. His eyes did not give away anything he was feeling. Was he mad I made his toy this way? Would he lash out for hurting a fellow pack member? "You did, and I'm proud of you," he said, and a grin broke out on his face while his eyes shone with pride and adoration. He was proud of me. "I'm not happy you hurt another pack member, but she had it coming for her. If she had not crossed you, you wouldn't have lashed out," he said with a smile, and I felt my heart tug at his handsome face. He must have felt the same thing because he pulled me closer by my waist while looking into my eyes. It was like an invisible glue was in between us, and I wanted to soak in all of the feelings. "You feel it too, don't you?" he whispered, and I nodded my head. Jasmine was howling in excitement in my head. It felt like the first time I met him all over again. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I felt like I was going to fall from the intensity of his eyes on me. "Mine," he growled, his eyes turning golden, which indicated that his wolf was in control. He gently cupped my chin, and I reverted to the back of my mind so that Jasmine could talk to her mate. "You look totally beautiful, mate," he said in a husky voice, and Jasmine whimpered. I rolled my back at the back of my mind where I was watching the interaction. A wolf chosen for a great prophecy, my foot. "I've been waiting for you to come to me," he pulled her closer, and Jasmine would have dropped my panties there and then if he'd asked. "I'd have made you mine since I saw you, but my human is a fool," I snickered at that. "He sure is, a big fool at that." Adrian's eye colors kept changing before he eventually got control of his body back. Jasmine refused to let me take control of my body, demanding that Alexander bring her mate back so she could speak to him. "I did not get his name. I just want to see him again so he can tell me his name," she whined, and I rolled my eyes at her. "Jasmine, let me take control of my body," I asked gently, but she refused. I almost screamed, but kept it in. Why did I get paired with such an obstinate wolf? His name is Daxon, and I promise that you're going to see him soon in his wolf form, Adrian cajoled her before she finally allowed me to take control back. We both laughed softly at the antics of our wolves before I looked towards the bed where Faye was laying, and I got serious again. Why do you think she's not healing? She's a high-ranking wolf and one of the strongest in the pack, no? He nodded, and I sighed as I looked towards the bed again. What do you think is happening with me, Adrian? I asked in a low tone, and he patted my head before pulling me into a hug. We're going to find out soon. The pack sorceress is waiting for us at home. Home. The word felt nice, and I smiled. Sure, let's go home. Before we could get out of there, I tugged on his arm, and he stopped to face me. This means you've accepted me as your mate, right? I asked boldly, even though I was scared of what his answer might be. Yes, Lola. I choose you as my Luna, if you're going to take me back, of course. I nodded. I accept you as my mate, Adrian. You have a lot of pleading to do, though. It will take a while to appease me, I said with a smile before we walked out of the room hand in hand. Maybe being reborn with a purpose wasn't a bad idea after all. Lola's POV. I had the option to walk home, but Adrian said, and I quote, I can't risk anything happening to you. I'd never forgive myself, so he decided that we would take a car instead. It wasn't like anything was going to happen to me if I walked like all the other regular people. Jasmine laughed in my head. Yet you're as red as a tomato, and I wanted to slap her. With a hint of sarcasm seeping through, I remarked, Geez, what a supportive wolf you are. She continued to mock me, and my want to slap her grew stronger. You're stuck with me whether you like it or not, girl, so get over it, she taunted. You're suddenly so energetic after meeting Daxon. Maybe accepting the mate bond was a bad idea, I said into the mind link, knowing that she wasn't going to take it well. Don't you dare say accepting the mate bond was a mistake. My mate and I were already apart for so long because your mate decided to be a jerk, she snapped. I felt bad for even bringing it up and went silent. So what do you say? Adrian's voice reached my ear, and I pulled myself out of the mental conversation and focused on him. What? I managed to get out. He looked at me in bewilderment for a millisecond before he looked back at the road. I blushed furiously and looked down at my entwined hands. It was definitely Jasmine's fault. I did not really pay attention to what he was saying. Hey, I did not. She was about to argue, but I cut off the mind link. I'm sorry. I wasn't really paying attention. I managed to get out, and he chuckled lightly. You're cute for thinking that I'd get mad at you because you zoned out. He patted my head briefly before concentrating on the road again. He soon pulled up at the house, and I could feel my heart beating erratically in my chest as he turned off the car's engine and turned to face me. I asked if you want to go on a date with me, Lola said in a husky voice. I blushed furiously as I could not believe my ears. Adrian wants to go on a date with me. I guess almost dying made him realize that I was his mate. I looked at him to find him staring at me, anticipation evident on his face. I don't know, Adrian. You haven't proven to me that you deserve my love and attention. What if you change your mind again? I questioned him. I wanted to be sure I wasn't digging my own grave by agreeing to be with him. A look of hurt passed his eyes briefly, but he masked it. He held my hands and made me look into his eyes. Baby, I know I fucked up royally, but I can explain everything that has happened. Please give me a chance to prove myself, he pleaded, and my resolve softened. Just a chance? I asked in a small voice. Yeah, just a chance, he whispered and made a move to kiss me when he suddenly pulled back. Our presence is needed inside, he murmured and pulled back. I wanted to pull him back to me and lock lips with him, but I did not want to look so desperate. They couldn't have waited a minute more before requesting that we come in? Sheesh. Like he knew what I was thinking, Adrian chuckled and got out of the car. He came around to my side to open the door and held my hands to help me out of the car. I know you are angry for not getting that kiss, but I promise you that we'd be doing much more than that in a while, he whispered into my ear as a shiver ran down my spine. Good goddess. We walked hand in hand into the house, and everyone seemed surprised at the fact that we were holding hands, but no one said anything. I looked around the room and was a bit taken aback when I saw Serena sitting in the living room with others. What was she doing here? Serena? I questioned in disbelief, and everyone except Layla looked shocked that I knew her. You guys have met? Adrian asked, and I nodded. Yeah, the day Lila and I had a girls' day out, I said. More like a getaway, Jasmine said in my head, and I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. Why is she here, and why is everyone looking at me like I have grown 2 heads? I asked, even though I know why they were looking at me, but I did not want them to think about me differently. You know why I am here, but they do not. I'm here to shed light on that, she said calmly. What's her connection to the pack? I thought Lila only knew her from the spa. I'm sure you're curious about what the moon goddess said on your last visit to her garden, she said, and I nodded, even though everyone else in the room was shocked by that realization. You saw the moon goddess? Was that why she kept fainting? Alexander asked from beside me, and Serena nodded with a smile. What about her appearance? How did she change so drastically? Even her scars are gone, completely gone, he asked again, and I looked at him in shock. He knew. Like he could hear what I was thinking, he nodded at me. Yes, I know your scars are completely gone. I noticed it when the doctor was doing mini tests on you earlier, he explained, and I nodded. We turned back to Serena, eager to hear what she had to say. I also wanted to know that reason I was like this. She's a part of something bigger, something the whole of the wolf world has been anticipating. She took a pause after that, and it was obvious that everyone wanted to hear what she had to say. You're the moon wolf, Lola. You're the wolf with the power of the moon goddess, Serena said, and gasps were heard around the room. Even Adrian was shocked. Moon wolf? Power of the moon goddess? Me? I still had no idea of what the moon wolf was and why I was chosen to be her. I also wanted to know why I had suddenly transformed and why my skin had changed completely. Not like I was complaining about that aspect, but why am I suddenly transformed, and does the whole new skin comes with the package? I asked, and everyone turned to Serena at that. I guess I wasn't the only curious one. You're reborn. The war is upon us, and it's up to you to save all of us, she replied. And the room went so silent that a pin could be heard if it was dropped in that moment. Lola's POV. The room went silent, and I looked around the room to find various expressions on people's faces, but none portrayed joy nor happiness. We were just told we were going to lead a war, and you expect anyone to be glad about it? Jasmine asked in my head, and I wanted to scream. Did I suffer for 8 years just to be pushed into war? And I thought I was going to get a good life now that I have clear skin. I guess I have to do away with that thought. What exactly is the prophecy, and how am I supposed to lead it when I don't even know what it is about, nor what I can do? Is this some kind of joke? I questioned with a humorless laugh, since I couldn't bring myself to cry about the matter at hand. A long time ago, Selene was forcefully taken by the god of rogues, Hermes. Hermes married her forcefully after he threatened to tear down her city if she didn't comply with him. Selene, being the kind and peaceful soul that she was, agreed to marry him and was taken far away from her people. Serena started, and Adrian led me towards a chair as we've been standing since we came in. Selene wasn't happy with Hermes, but she had no choice if she wanted her people to be safe. Everything in Hermes' town was weird and disturbing, but Selene couldn't say a thing nor ask anything regarding it if she did not want to lose her life. Hermes did not have sex with her. He'd just occasionally come in to draw some of her blood and leave afterwards. She got curious one day and followed him stealthily without him noticing. She was surprised by what she saw. In a different part of his town, he had some kind of rituals he was doing to transform men into wild-looking animals. They seemed almost wolfish and looked dangerous. Their eyes were red and had no sign of life in them. Selene became scared and ran for her life, but was soon caught by the men Hermes sent after her. She took a deep breath before she continued. Being someone that cannot stand evil, Selene said she was going to kill herself, since her blood was being used for such evil. On hearing this, Hermes promised to let her have a life as long as she doesn't allow any man to defile her. Selene wanted to know why he was doing such, and he told her that he wanted to be the ruler of the whole world. He was going to make enough soldiers to help him achieve that. And what other way could he make a soldier that would easily take over that world than making an army of soldiers that everyone will be scared of? Hermes said her blood was a very important factor because she was the purest in the land, and her blood, coupled with black magic, was enough to create such monsters. Selene did not know what to do, but she wasn't ready to lose her life either. She kept getting her blood taken and couldn't do anything about it. One day she decided to go to the market in the village and was walking around when she came across the most beautiful man she's ever set her eyes on. That was when she met Endymion, the man whom Hermes forbade from living in the town because of how beautiful he looked. Endymion was the male version of everything Selene embodied. He was so beautiful, it was almost painful to look at. He was kind, he was a very peaceful man, and did not like any form of altercations. Selene fell in love with him at first sight and followed him to where he lives in a cave in the middle of the mountains. Since that day, Selene would constantly go the market under the guise of buying things and disappear into the mountains to see Endymion. I was amazed at this story, and it seemed I wasn't the only one who wanted to listen to the story. Selene finally made Endymion fall in love with her, and she got pregnant with Endymion's daughter. Hermes was enraged at what Selene did after she had been ordered to stay away from men, so ordered that a black witch should perform the magic that would turn her into a feral animal too, but the witch failed. How? Why? But she's no longer pure, Lila questioned from her seat, and Nathan shut her up affectionately, making her pout. Serena laughed before continuing her story. Despite the fact that she was pregnant, her heart was still pure as ever, and something around her was contradicting the black magic, but she was still affected. She felt changes in her body, her senses were heightened, and she could talk to nocturnal animals. Afraid that she was going to be killed by Hermes, she ran away in the middle of the night and went to live with Endymion in the heart of the mountain. They lived peacefully until one full moon later. At this point, she requested for a glass of water, which Rose readily brought before she continued with the story. Hermes found out where she was and came with some of his wild creations. Selene already sensed them and urged Endymion to run away with her, but he disagreed. He said he was going to use himself as a bait to save his wife and child. Selene, not knowing the magnitude of her powers, ran, but came back to meet Endymion teetering on the edge of death. Apparently, one of the rogues bit him, and he was slowly turning into one of them. Selene kept crying and praying for anyone to listen to her plea and take her instead. Poor Selene and Endymion. The moon decided to bestow its powers upon her, but it came at the price of her baby. Endymion's life was restored, but he wasn't human anymore either. He came back as a werewolf, and he became the first alpha king of werewolves. They did not sit still like that. They started recruiting people to fight in the oncoming war, and lots of people followed them. They were tired of Hermes's menace and were ready to fight him under the tutelage of Endymion and Selene. They knew they were kind and peaceful people and would not lead them into something that will not benefit them. Because their love kept going strong, Endymion had some superpowers of his own, and they kept turning people who wanted to join the cause into werewolves too, and got great strength from the moon. It becomes more enhanced with a full moon. Eventually, the war came about 3 full moons later, and the rogues, as they were called, were all vanquished by the werewolf army. But Hermes' first son escaped, and since then had been creating many wars and problems in the werewolf world. This story never gets old, no matter how much I hear it, Avianca gushed and the rest agreed. Why did they all act like they were just listening to it for the first time? How did I get thrown into the equation then? I asked the question that hadn't been answered, and everyone looked at me like I was supposed to figure that out on my own. Well, forgive me for trying to know why I've been suffering for the last 8 years without knowing why. Lola's POV. Well, is anyone going to talk? I said, looking at everyone's face. Serena took a deep breath before she continued her story. The same goal Hermes had was what his son embarked on too, but they never found another one as pure as Selene. He killed a lot of virgins with the hope of getting just one pure soul that could complete the whole process with her blood, but he failed tremendously. That still doesn't explain anything, but I'll keep listening to the end. Adrian must have noticed how lost I was and how I was getting impatient with the whole story. He held my hands and squeezed gently as a form of assurance. Selene and Endymion thought of a way to make the whole war come to an end, but it all proved abortive. When the with black magic died with just few offsprings that knew about her collaboration with the Alpha King, Thanos, Hermes' son decided to find a way to be permanently powerful and conquer the world. Thanos found out that Endymion got his powers after getting mated to Selene and made it a mission to get married to a pure soul so that he could be powerful and follow in his father's footsteps, but Selene matched him up with someone he would always love and cherish, and he stopped his mission, she finished saying, and I got more confused. Since Thanos already forgot about the mission, why am I being thrown into war then? I asked, baffled and tired. Was the stress unnecessary? I was going to avoid it if I could, but I needed clarity if I was going to take on the role of the one who brought peace to the wolf world. Thanos might have forgotten about it, but his mate was someone that was power-hungry too. She drilled it into her son's head, and it was passed down generations, Serena explained. Why did Selene not finish this once and for all, and why did she wait for all these years to find a savior? I was getting more confused as the story went on, and it seemed everyone was interested in what explanation she had to give too. She could not overtake that evil by herself. When she finally became one of the goddesses of the seven heavens, she was able to birth a pure wolf that hasn't been stained with anything. The wolf is Jasmine, and it was only when you were born that she awakened, and that's why she's been with you since you were young. She explained, and I was wowed. Whoa, just whoa. She was made for you specially, Lola. This is your calling. If you could not do it, she wouldn't have chosen you, she said to me with a smile, and I sighed deeply. How did we get here, Jas? When I met with her, she said I was about to unlock my true potential. What did she mean by that? How am I even supposed to know what to do? I lamented. It's up to you to unlock your true potential. You shouldn't hold back, and must be ready to train yourself to withstand the changes that are coming. How the heck am I supposed to unlock true potential when I don't even know what I'm supposed to be expecting? Also, you have a powerful Alpha King by your side? She turned towards Adrian, who was confused. He's the Endymion to your Selene. You have to grow together and unlock your potential together. She smiled at us, and I wanted to smack the smile off her face, but I kept my cool. She kept talking in parables and expected me to understand how to unlock my potential. She stood up, and Rose stood up after her, but I remained seated. I was still reeling from everything I just heard. I got more confused instead of getting clarification. Adrian remained seated beside me, gently rubbing my arms. We'd figure it together, baby. You have a powerful Alpha King beside you, remember? He teased me, and I allowed a smile to show. I'd take my leave now. Do not hesitate to call on me if there's anything you need my help with, Serena said to Rose and Jaden, who nodded. Like hell I would contact you. You barely had any useful information for me, I thought. She was escorted out by Rose and Jaden. I took another deep breath, but was startled when Lila and the girls rushed me, making me jump in my seat. They all looked at me with big doe eyes, and I rolled my eyes at their childish antics. The Moon Wolf, huh? Avianca was the first one to speak up. Girls, please. It's not the end of the world. I rolled my eyes at them. Not the end of the world? It might be the end of our own world if you do not realize your true potential, Lotana said, and Lila hit her before signaling for her to shut up. Geez, I don't feel pressured at all, I said with sarcasm, and Lotana looked sheepish. I have to rest, guys. I've had more than enough information to digest for a day. I yawned, and Adrian spoke up. I guess you will have to suspend your talks till tomorrow, he said to the girls, and they exchanged weird glances. Turning to me, he spoke. You should get to rest, baby. We're going to figure this out in the morning. I nodded at him before looking at the girls, and the comical expression on their faces almost made me laugh. Even Nathan looked surprised. I get it, Guy. I find it shocking also. I left them after a quick goodbye, and Adrian followed me, supporting me the whole way to the bedroom. I wasn't weak. It just felt good to have him dote on me. I've always wanted my mate, and now he's giving me the time and attention I've always wanted. He still stayed with me when we entered the room, and I had to chase him out against his will. I never would have thought he'd be a clingy mate. "Let me stay with you just for tonight, baby?" He whined from outside the door after I chased him out, and I laughed. "Nope," I replied, popping the pea. "I promise that I won't touch you. I just want to be so close to my mate." "You've been sleeping for a week? Do you know how hard it was for me?" He said quietly, and I sensed the sincerity in his voice. I opened the door, and he stood there, looking like a lost puppy. His eyes lightened up when he saw the door opened. "Fine, you can sleep in here just for today." He gave me a boyish smile that sent my heart racing. After we both freshened up, separately of course, we slept in each other's arms, and it was my best night yet. Lola's POV. Sunlight rays shone brightly on my face, making me squint in my sleep before I eventually opened my eyes. To my surprise, I was met with a wide-awake Adrian who was watching me intently, with a smile on his face. "Good morning, my beautiful mate," he greeted before grinning widely at me, which resulted in my cheeks having a striking resemblance to a very ripe tomato. I hid my face in my pillow when he chuckled at my face. "You shouldn't hide from me," he said. "You look fucking pretty right now, and it's taking a whole lot of strength to prevent Daxon from taking over." I looked at him in confusion. "Why? Does he want to speak to Lola?" At this question, my wolf jumped in excitement in my head, and I had to plead with her before she calmed down. It was too early in the morning to be having headache. I had enough yesterday. Adrian spoke up. "Yes, he wants to talk to Lola, but he wants to talk to you first. I apologize for anything he might do in advance." Just then, his eyes changed from its right green and left hazel eyes to a darker shade of left green and right hazel eyes, signifying that Daxon was in control. He gave me a dazzling smile and looked genuinely happy to see me. "Hi, mate." His husky, deep voice filled the room, and I gave him a dazzling smile. "Hi, Daxon," I replied shyly. Jasmine kept howling happily in my head, but I couldn't blame her. The love we're getting from our mate is long overdue. We waited for 8 years to be cherished and loved by one person unconditionally, and I was glad that we were finally getting it. "I'm sorry I took so much time. I thought it might be too late by the time the human dummy came to his senses and you wouldn't want us anymore," he said with evident sadness. I did not think twice before I cupped his face gently, rubbing my thumb across his cheeks. "It wasn't your fault, Daxon. You have nothing to apologize for. Like you said, Adrian was dumb, but he finally came to his senses before it became too late, and that's what matters the most," I told him. He rested his forehead on mine, and we stayed like that for a while. In my state of calmness, Jasmine took over my body and flipped Daxon onto his back while she straddled him, taking him by surprise. "Jasmine!" I screamed into our mind link, but she ignored me. "Oh, goddess! How did I get paired with such a freaky wolf? So much for being a powerful wolf. Powerful, my feet." Daxon placed his hands behind his head and stared up at her with a sly smile on his face. "Excited, are we? Hello to you too, Jasmine," he spoke, and she leaned forward to lock her lips with his, making me gasp. For the love of the moon, what was she doing? "That kiss is long overdue," Jasmine breathed out after she broke away from the kiss. "You're right," Daxon replied, "and that's why we should do this." He locked his lips with hers again, and they kissed passionately, while I just watched, speechlessly. When their hands started roaming and it was getting too far, I struggled to take control of my body, which proved to be a feat. You should never mess with a horny she-wolf. My will to stop it before it gets too far overpowered her will to mate with her mate, and I jumped off Daxon immediately. I was able to take control. I did not wait around to see what would happen next. I rushed into the bathroom and locked the door behind me. After calming my erratic breathing, I went to the basin to splash cold water on my face to reduce the redness of my face. "Why did you stop me?" Jasmine whined in my head. "Why did I stop you?" "Girl, you were ready to get down with Daxon if I had not stopped you." I screamed at her, and I felt her pouting. "He's my mate, and your dummy human mate kept us apart for so long," she huffed. I took a deep breath and said a quick prayer to the moon to give me patience to deal with her. "I agree that he was a fool, but I'm not ready to get marked now, and you were going on that path," I said to her calmly. "Besides, we have war to prepare for. Let's take it slowly, yeah?" I said with bated breath, Fine, she huffed, but I can't promise that I'd be able to take it slowly next time. He looked so hot while he was talking to you. She gushed, and I laughed. You do realize that you're technically fawning over my mate? You're a wolf, so wait till you see him in wolf form before you jump his bone. I teased her, and she growled playfully at me. I heard the door to my room close, signifying that Adrian left already. I thought about how nice it was to wake up in his arms, and the fact that he was watching me while I slept gave me butterflies in my belly. And I'm the dirty one, Jasmine laughed in my head. Stop listening to my thoughts, I rushed out before blocking her out, not before she laughed at me. That darn wolf. I washed up and left the bathroom. I picked a very comfortable wear that consisted of a cute white top and suede flared pants that felt as comfortable as they looked. I paired it with a black slippers before making my way to the living room, the smell of food leading me. Rose was busy in the kitchen when I walked in. I made to go help her, but she hit me with a spatula before telling me to go and have a seat. We talked about random things when Jaden walked in. Adrian walked in shortly after, and we all had breakfast while chatting about random things. The air was light as we ate, and it finally felt like I belonged to a family of my own. After we finished eating and cleared everything, I made to go back to my room when Jaden stopped me. We need to talk, Lola. Lola's POV. I reluctantly turned around and went to where Jaden sat in the living room. I stood for a while before he motioned for me to sit on the single settee chair in the room. I knew what he was going to talk about, but I still hoped that he wouldn't say it. Oh, goddess, I'm not ready. Adrian and Rose soon joined us, and Adrian sat closer to me, giving me some sort of comfort. He held my hand, and I took a deep breath before Jaden began to talk. I'm sure it must have been shocking to find out that you're a special wolf yesterday, he began. Not really. I've always known I was different. I just didn't know it was the type of different that will out the fate of the pack wolves into my hands. I nodded my head so I wouldn't seem rude, and he continued. It's no news that you'd be leading our kind into a war that only you and Adrian can conquer, he stated the obvious. Adrian must have noticed how stiff I sat because he squeezed my hands again. We've decided that it's time to step up to the role of the Luna that rightfully belongs to you, he said before resting his back on the chair, and I was dumbfounded. It took me about 2 minutes to process what he said, and I screamed. Why? Why am I taking up the role of the Luna now? Why should I be a Luna to a man that recently just acknowledged me? Why? I screamed out, and they all looked taken aback. Adrian looked hurt, but that wasn't what was important. Were they expecting me to be cool with whatever decision they made without consulting me first? Like hell, I'd comply. Rose was the one who spoke next. Lola, child, this is for the sake of the pack. She paused to gauge my response. She continued when I kept my face neutral. The pack needs their new Luna. Adrian is supposed to be the new Alpha King already. He needed his Luna to be able to do so. And now that it's obvious you're both getting along, there's no reason to waste any more time, she finished, and I looked at her like she'd grown 2 heads. What happened to the Rose that would always support me in my decisions? He needed his Luna to become the Alpha King, and yet he was ready to choose Faye over me when I got here. He needed his Luna, yet no one dared to make him see that he was making a mistake by treating me the way he did? I asked in a shaky voice. I removed my hand from Adrian's clasp and ran up to my room, making sure I locked the door. I began to pace the room while taking deep breaths. I didn't know what emotions I was feeling inside me. It was a mixture of rage, fear, and sadness. Lola, can you at least consider stepping up to the role? Jasmine asked in my head. Consider stepping up to the role? Jasmine, you suffered from this more. You were constantly weak and I almost lost you, I replied to her. But that was in Moonlit Pack. We're with our true mate now, and you can agree with me that this pack has made you feel welcomed in the span of 1 month, where Moonlit Pack made you feel like an outcast for 8 years. She spoke gently, and I couldn't help but agree with her. Truth is, I was scared of failing. I was scared of letting everyone down. If I had been told to do something like this in Moonlit Pack, I wouldn't have thought twice before I agreed. I wouldn't feel a thing if they all died. But the case of Crescent Moon Pack was different. They accepted me and treated me like their own. I didn't want to get their hopes up and fail eventually. I'd never forgive myself. I felt bad for lashing out at Rose and Jaden when they have been nothing but nice to me. I did not know when tears started streaming down my cheeks. I had to apologize to them for being a spoiled brat. I made up my mind to go and apologize to them, and when I opened the door, I was met with a sad-looking Adrian. I opened my mouth to speak, but he pulled me into his chest and hugged me tight. We didn't say a word. We just stood like that for a while. I eventually broke up our embrace and looked up at him. "Can we talk?" he asked, and when I took time to answer, he added, "Please." I nodded my head and led him into my room. He kept looking at me for a while, making me squirm under his gaze. "Am I really the reason you're refusing to take on your role as the Luna?" He suddenly spoke. When I was taking a while to answer him, he pulled me closer to his chest and asked his question again. I shook my head and tried to bury myself into his skin. He felt like home. "Why then? Because if you're trying to hurt my feelings, I'd suggest that you stop. I fucked up initially, and I don't care how long it takes, I'm going to." I shut him up with a kiss, surprising both of us. "Look who decided to be bold and take charge," Jasmine teased in my head, but I ignored her. I pulled away from the kiss once I was sure he was calm. "It's not your fault, Adrian. I'm just scared of falling and letting everyone down," I whispered softly. "What if the moon goddess is wrong and I'm unable to save us all? What if the rogues win? What will become of this pack then? It's a huge responsibility, and I'm scared to take it on lest I let the pack down," I admitted in shame. "Baby, it's nothing to be ashamed about. To be honest, I'm scared too. I'm scared I'm going to fuck up our relationship again. I'm scared I'm not going to make a good king. I'm scared about the oncoming war because you'll be in the center of it, but you know what?" he asked, and I looked up at him. "What?" "I have you, Lola. Apart from the fact that you're the moon wolf, I have my moon-ordained mate with me, and I know we're going to get through this together." With that, he dropped a kiss on my forehead, and I went back to snuggling into his arms. He's right. I have my mate with me. I shouldn't be scared of anything. Lola's POV. "I'm going to be your Luna and take up the responsibility of saving us all," I said out of the blues, and his chest vibrated with hums of satisfaction. "I promise to be a better man for you, baby. For us," he whispered before placing a kiss on my forehead. All of a sudden, I jumped away from him when a realization hit me. He looked at me stunned and confused. "Huh, what's going on? Did I say something wrong?" he asked, genuinely confused, and I almost giggled from how adorable his confused face looked. "Yeah, I know he's the big bad alpha, but he still looks adorable. Must be the mate bond talking." "I should go and apologize to Jaden and Rose," I said, and his face relaxed. "I was so rude to them a while ago," I muttered sadly, and he pulled me into him again. "I promise you that Mom and Dad are not mad at you," he gently said, and I looked up to see his face. "How do you know that? I even ran out when they were talking to me. Geez, I must have forgotten my place." I placed my face into his chest again. "Forgotten your place? Baby, you're the Luna of this pack. Heck, you're the Luna of the whole of the werewolf world. You don't have to bow to anyone. People bow to you," he replied with pride in his voice. I hit him on his shoulder, and he looked at me with fake hurt on his face. "Ouch, what was that for?" he asked, rubbing where I just hit him, even though I know it didn't have any effect on him. I might be the next Luna of the werewolf world, but she is the current Luna, and I was rude to her. He wanted to talk, but I kept on talking. "Also, when you were a jerk and was nonchalant about me, they were the ones that stood by me the most," I finished. "I can assure you that they're not angry, but if it will put your mind at rest, we should go and apologize to them," he said lovingly, and I nodded vigorously before standing up from the bed. I waited for him to stand up, and when he did not, I looked in his direction to find him pouting. "So what is it now?" I rolled my eyes at him playfully. "You called me a jerk. I just remembered," he sulked. "I'm not gonna lie, he looks totally adorable right now," Jasmine pointed out, and I couldn't help but agree. "Yes, I did, Adrian. You were a jerk, a dumb jerk." I squinted my eyes at him, and a smile almost broke out on his face. Of course, why would I think he was serious? "I had my reasons, baby." His expression changed into a serious one as he spoke. I waited to hear if he'd add any other information, but he stopped. Yeah, I believe you. Now can we go? I asked when he wasn't saying anything anymore. He stood up, took my hand in his, and led the way to where Rose and Jaden were sitting. My heart was pounding so hard in my chest, I was sure they could all hear it. Rose was the first to look up from the TV they were watching. When she saw me, her face lightened up. "Pumpkin, are you okay now?" was her first question, and I managed a smile. She did not deserve my rudeness. Jaden looked up too with a ghost of a smile on his face. "We're glad you finally made that bold decision, Lola. We'll be here to support you in every way possible. The whole pack is going to support you," Jaden said, and I nodded. I looked over to Adrian, who had a huge grin on his face. I glared at him while he shrugged his shoulders. He stole my opportunity to tell them myself. "Little birdie." "Thank you, Jaden." "I promise I won't disappoint you." I smiled at him and he nodded while Rose smiled at me happily. My phone dinged in my pocket, and I took it out to see a message from Lila. "We're having a girls' day out. Be here in 30. The message was simple and straightforward, and I knew that here, in this sense, meant the pack house. I contemplated bailing on them because I do not want the pack members to say things about me, but I knew it had to be done. "Sure," I texted back and placed my phone back in my pocket. "I have to go to the pack house," I said. "The girls and I are having a girls' day out." Jaden and Rose hummed their responses, and Adrian offered to walk me to the pack house since he had to meet Nathan also. I knew it was a lie, but I wasn't going to reject the offer of having my mates close to me for longer. We walked hand in hand to the pack house, and people gave us weird glances, which I tried to ignore. Once we were inside the pack house, he gave me a kiss on the forehead before he went on his way. I looked around and people were staring at us in shock. I walked speedily towards Lila's former room with my cheeks on fire. The girls were startled when I hurriedly entered and slammed the door behind me. "What are you running from, and why are your cheeks so red?" Lotana asked, and others looked at me expectantly. "I am not running from anyone," I said with a wave of my hands. Hardly had I sat down when they all rushed towards me to ask me questions. "So you and Adrian are officially a thing now? Are you going to be our Luna now? Oh my goddess, have you guys done the dirty already?" The last question came from Avianca, and we all looked at her. "What? It can't be only Lila and I that will be doing the dirty," she shrugged. "Wait, you found your mate?" I asked, and she nodded. "Yes, I did. I found her the night of my coming of age." Her cheeks turned red, and I laughed lightly at her. "Yeah, Warrior Lucy is her mate," Lotana chipped in, and I nodded. "You guys said we'll be having a girls' day out. You tricked me." I glared at them, and they smiled sheepishly. "We can still have a girls' day out while talking about our newfound loves," Avianca said excitedly, and I shook my head at her with a smile. I noticed that Lila wasn't as chipper as she would be normally, and looked towards her to see her out of it. Her eyes were on us, but they had no focus in them. It was like she was far away. I was about to call her when she spoke. "Guys, I'm pregnant." Lola's POV. After Lila spoke, the room fell into a pin-drop silence. We all looked at each for a while before we all erupted into shrill screams of excitement. We all hugged her once, making her fall back into the bed. I was the first to remove myself from the tangle of human bodies, and I pulled both Avianca and Lotana back by the collar of their shirts effortlessly so they wouldn't hurt the baby growing inside of her, since they were laying on her front side. "You guys are not trying to squeeze the baby out of her, no?" I asked both of them sternly, and they pouted. "I swear, you guys act like toddlers sometimes. I wonder how I got stuck with you," I said, and Avianca stuck her tongue out at me while Lotana rolled her eyes. When we realized that Lila wasn't saying anything, I went to fit down beside her and held her hands. "What's the matter, Chica? This is one of your dreams, remember? You want to be mated to the one you love and give birth to your pups at 18, 19 latest. Why do you seem sad?" I questioned her, trying to peer at her face, but she kept her head downcast. Avianca and Lotana already stood in front of us with worried expressions on their faces. It was supposed to be a joyful occasion, but Lila was unhappy. She suddenly started crying, and we were all shocked. Hey, it's okay, Lila. You can tell us what's going on," Avianca said, and we all waited expectantly for her reply, but she kept on crying. Did Nathan say something mean to you or the baby? Lotana suddenly gasped out. I'm going to kill him. She turned towards the door. Lila rushed up and dragged her by her elbow. No, please, he did not say anything to me. I haven't even told him anything about it, she hiccuped. Why are you crying then? I asked her again and she looked up at me with teary eyes. I'm scared, guys, she sniffed. I'm scared I won't be a good mother to this baby, she said, gently rubbing her ever-flat stomach. I'm scared of failing as a mother. The fact that the responsibility of another soul will be on my shoulder is scary, Guy, she said before bursting into tears again. Avianca pulled her into her chest and rubbed her back while she cried. That's nonsense, Lila, Avianca spoke up. You're one of the most amazing people I've met, and it's going to show in every way you bring up your child, okay? And you have a very supportive mate, and you have us. Lotana and I nodded in agreement. We're going to make it through this together, Lila. We got you, she finished speaking, and Lila's crying subsided. Sniffing, she spoke up again. Not to put pressure on Lola, but we have to work hard to win this war. She looked at me with a pained look in her eyes, and I felt like another boulder had been added to the weight on my shoulder. I have to save everyone. I have to. I plastered a smile on my face before I spoke. I might not know my full potential yet, but I assure you that I will watch your baby grow before my eyes. I have to do everything within my powers to make sure you're all safe, I said with a grin. And besides, I'm the Moon Wolf. Add some respect to my name, I said with a flip of my hair, and we all laughed. Oh, that was such a great display of pregnancy hormones, Lotana said, earning her a slap on the shoulder from Lila. That definitely was pregnancy hormones. It's what anyone will do, she tried to defend herself. I definitely don't see anyone crying here other than this feisty, pregnant she-wolf, Avianca said. And we all laughed while Lila rolled her eyes at us before joining us too. We all joked and laughed all day before I decided to head back to the house as it was nearing nighttime already. We even missed lunch, we just munched on junks as we went through the day. Just as we got to the Packhouse's living room, Faye came in with her minions supporting her as she limped. She saw me and rage overcame her face. She limped towards me and growled loudly, but I just rolled my eyes. You! Look what you did to me, bitch, she snarled but refrained from coming too close to me. At least, she learned her lesson. Jasmine laughed in my head and I almost laughed out loud too. Faye, it's not so nice to see that you're back, Lila said to her. She glared at Lola before turning to face me with a killer gaze in her eyes. I don't know what you did to me or how you did it, but I assure you that I'll get back at you. I looked at her with a bored expression and it infuriated her further. She limped towards me, but her minions stayed back. She was moving too close to me when Lotana spoke up. I wouldn't move so close if I were you. You don't want to go back to the room you're coming from, do you? Fear crossed her eyes before she masked it and stood where she was. Whatever you do in this pack, watch your back, she snarled at me, but I wasn't fazed. I'm going to be the Luna of this pack, and you'll just be on the sidelines watching me without being able to do a thing, she laughed before turning back. I just pity you, that's all. You're a pathetic, power-hungry she-wolf, and it's so sad to see, I said, earning gasps from people that were present in the room. What? She screamed as she turned back to face me. Just then, I smelled him before I felt him behind me. Faye's eyes suddenly went from being murderous to loving, and it was directed at the person behind me. Adrian, that psychotic, phony bitch. Adrian, she called out softly, and I had the urge to punch her silly. Jasmine was trying to come out again, but I reined her in. It was my battle, and I was going to face it myself. Adrian, I called out to him. Yes, baby, he replied as he placed his hands on my waist. That simple gesture made the mad look in her eyes return, and I smiled in satisfaction. She looked me in the eyes while gritting her teeth, which made me smirk at her, before turning around in Adrian's arms. Immediately I turned around. I locked my lips with his, making gasps erupt within the room, Adrian's POV. I smiled into the kiss and pulled her closer to me, making the sounds of surprise around us become louder. To be candid, watching her claim her place as the Luna of the pack in front of my of Faye and half of the pack was the hottest thing I've ever seen. I love the woman she is becoming so much. I love how she can be nice and considerate while commanding respect. After a while, We broke up the kiss and leaned my forehead against hers. A shrill scream pierced the air, and we looked back to see an hysterical Fae being held back by her followers. "I'm supposed to be the Luna," she screamed, while trying to free herself from the people holding her. "You said I was going to be the Luna, Adrian. I will not allow this low-life rogue to take my position away from me," she kept screaming with tears streaming down her face. At the sound of Lola being called lowlife, I was consumed by so much rage, I wanted to tear her into pieces. "How dare that bitch call my mate a lowlife rogue?" Daxon growled in anger in my head. "I'm going to kill her," he snarled, and I agreed with him. She had no right whatsoever to regard my mate in that manner. I was about to move towards her when Lola stopped me by placing a hand on my shoulder, instantly making me calm down. She did not take her eyes away from Faye all these while, and we all looked on to see what would happen. "You're the Luna?" Lola spoke up, her voice getting a tad deeper, which indicated that Jasmine was present too. "You were a replacement, bitch. You were just a bed warmer till I came to take my rightful place," she continued. The energy in the room had changed, and everybody looked on in surprise at my mate. Her hair was starting to glow, and there was a powerful aura around her. I was so proud and amazed by her. "And a low-life rogue?" she asked before laughing humorlessly, the aura in the room getting more powerful. "You'll never come close to being a quarter of what I stand for and represent," she spoke with power, and everyone in the room except me had their head bowed in submission. "You'll respect me and know your place, bitch." She growled in the direction of a now frightened Faye, and I almost laughed at how the tables turned. She turned around, held my hands, and led us out of the pack house. She kept tugging me along, and I let her because I found it so sexy and hot. "Never knew mate could do something so hot," Daxon purred in my head, and I nodded in agreement. It wasn't until we reached the house that she let go of my hands. "Why did you let go of my hand?" I asked her with a pout. I was loving the heat of her skin against mine. She became red with embarrassment and looked down at her hands. I chuckled before pulling her closer to me. "Now you're embarrassed?" I teased, and she glared at me before looking back at her hands. I found that confrontation so hot. "I think I like the jealous side of you, baby," I said with a pulled her chin up to look at me. Her eyes looked so mesmerizing and pulled me in. I leaned down to place a kiss on her lips. She'd already closed her eyes in anticipation when Mom's voice reached us. "You guys should get a room," she said with a tone of playfulness, and Lola pushed me so hard I hit my head on the nearby wall. "I wasn't doing anything," she squealed out, yet she looked like a tomato. Mom laughed before walking away from our sight. "Way to go, Mom. I was so close to tasting her amazing lips again, and she ruined it." "Oh my gosh, did I hurt you?" Lola asked with widened eyes when she saw me holding the part of my head that I hit on the wall. "Ouch, it hurts." I pouted and groaned in pain, even though Jay was perfectly fine. She rushed towards me and held my head in her small hands. Even though I bent my neck, she had to stay on her tippy tiesto reach it. Without giving her a warning, I lifted her by her waist and she instinctively wrapped her legs around my waist. "You were not hurt, were you?" she asked as she squinted at me, and I gave her a big grin. "I was hurt, all right. Having you close to me cured it," I said with a wide smile, and she rolled her eyes at me before hitting me on my shoulder again. "Such a goof," she rolled her eyes at me, but I saw the smile that threatened to escape her lips. "Only for you, baby," I whispered into her ears, and she looked like a ripe tomato again. It takes so little to make her smile and blush. Why didn't I realize that sooner? "Put me down," she demanded, but I ignored her request and carried to her room. She buried her head in my shoulder when we passed Mom, where she was making dinner in the kitchen. Cute. She kept on whining till we reached her room, but I refused to let her down. She ran into the bathroom immediately. I put her down and I laughed loudly. She has to be the most adorable person I've ever seen. Images of miniatures of her running around crossed my mind, but I waved it away. She wasn't ready, and I was not going to push her. I went off to my room to shower before heading downstairs for dinner. It was nice and felt like I had everything in my life complete. If only there wasn't an oncoming war, everything would have made perfect sense. I washed the dishes with her after we finished eating and also left the room when she said she was going to bed. Call me a simp, but I do not want to lose an extra minute with her if I could. Can I spend the night here? I asked, but she just ran into her room and closed the door on my face. I'm going to take that as a no, I said to myself. Good night, Lola, have a nice night, I said into the silent hallways before going towards my room. If only this peace and tranquility could last forever. Lola's POV. I woke up feeling uneasy and unsettled. I was worried for some reason, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. I listened carefully and heard Adrian's even breathing. He was still asleep. I tried to listen for anything out of place, but it all seemed normal to me. It was probably me being paranoid. I shook it off and rose to go and do my morning routine. I already got a hang of the whole girly face routine, and my face has never felt so soft and flawless, even though I'm barely consistent with it. You're a werewolf. You do not need skincare routine. Durr. I already gave you amazing skin and physique, Jasmine piped up in my head, but I rolled my eyes at her. Yeah, thank you so much for choosing me, the oh-so-powerful moon wolf, I said with a mock curtsy, and we both laughed. Do you feel it too, Jasmine? Am I being paranoid, or is something really going to happen today? I asked her after our laughter died down, and she sighed too. I feel it too, Lola. It might just be us getting used to being reborn. I'm sure it's nothing, she assured, and I nodded in agreement before I continued my routine. I stood in front of the mirror after bathing, and the wolf howling to the moon tattooed on my chest stood out. It had become the color of Jasmine's fur. When I looked closely, it looked exactly like Jasmine howling to a crescent moon. It seemed to glow, and I looked at it in amazement for a while before I left the bathroom. I picked out a short and short-sleeve top to go with it. I picked a red lace underwear set, and I felt sexy and powerful in it. I wore a fluffy teddy bear slippers and made my way downstairs where the aroma of food was strong in the air. It smells so good in here, I said as I entered the kitchen. Good morning, Rose. Hope you slept well? I greeted her as I moved towards her to help her. She chased me with her spatula as usual and made me set the table when she was done whipping up food for us. I had just finished setting the table. Adrian came into the dining area looking like a work of art. His bed hair looked so sexy, and the way his sweatpants hung dangerously low on his waist made me clench my thighs. I'm suddenly acting like Jasmine. What's wrong with me? Hey, I hear you. Jasmine said in my head. I'm only saying the truth, Chica. You're the horny one, I argued before blocking her out. She might mess with my head. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, baby, he greeted in his husky, sleepy voice and came over to place a kiss on my forehead. I think I melted right there and then. No one should be allowed to look this good. Good morning, I muttered shyly, and my cheeks were tinged red. Damn this fair skin. I can't get away with anything. Rose looked at us with a big smile on her face, and we sat down to eat when Jaden came into the living room. Rose was excited, and she exchanged looks with Adrian till we finished eating. I wondered what it was about, but I did not ask any questions. We finished eating, and Adrian offered to help me with the dishes. We were halfway through washing the dishes when he spoke. Do you want to go on a date with me, Lola? He said so lowly. I almost did not catch it. The plate in my hand almost dropped on the floor, but he caught it just in time. I did not quite hear that. It sounded like you asked me to go on a date. I looked up at his face and he nodded. Yes, baby. I asked if you'd like to go on a date with me, he said, and I could hear his erratic heartbeat. Was he nervous? Are you nervous? I asked when his heartbeat kept on beating erratically. The tip of his ears turned red and he looked down at his feet. It was such an amazing sight to behold. Well, I know it's not a normal thing in the werewolf world to go on a date, but I fucked up royally, and I would love to start all over with you. While I can't wait for you to rule beside me, I also want to get to know you outside the mate bond. I don't know if you'd be cool with it, and I just wanted, he rambled on, not raising his head to look at me once. I took his hands in mine, and he stopped his rambling. I'll love to go on a date with you, I said to him with a smile. He grinned and pulled me closer to him, dropping the plate in his hand in the process. Oops, I guess it was destined to break, he joked and laughed again. I'll see you in 2 hours. He gave me a quick kiss on the forehead before he packed the broken plates and left the kitchen shortly after. I was excited as I finished up washing the plates, the feelings I had in the morning long gone. I rushed up to my room after I was done and picked out my outfit. He did not tell me where we were going, so I settled for a sundress and cute sandals to complement it. I styled my hair and even put on minimal makeup. My phone dinged just as I was putting finishing touch to my overall look. I picked it up and the message was from Adrian. "I'm ready whenever you are, baby," the message read. I skipped out of my room and calmed down a bit when I reached the top of the staircase. I got to the living room, and I was shocked by what awaited me. Lola's POV. Adrian was standing in the middle of the room with a bouquet of beautiful white flowers that I had no idea what the name was. He looked so good in his black button-down shirt that he unbuttoned the first 2 buttons to show off his broad chest and a blue jean with a black boot to finish up his look. His hair looked like he'd run his hand through it several times, yet it looked amazing on him. His scent was a bit different. He must have used cologne. He looked so edible, and Jasmine kept running around in my head. He cleared his throat before he moved towards me with the flowers extended towards me. "You look so beautiful, Lola," he commented and gave me the flowers, which I sniffed immediately. The fragrance was so strong and calming, and I gave him a shy smile. "They look so pretty, and it smells so good," I said, sniffing the flowers again. The fragrance just made me feel at peace with myself. "What's the name?" "Jasmine," he said, and I looked up to him in amazement. "That's so amazing. Jasmine is so thrilled right now," I blushed. "What about you, my queen? Are you thrilled?" He was already in front of me, and he pulled me closer without crushing the flowers in my hands. "I was serious about making up for the lost time, baby. I plan to worship the ground you walk on now. I'll do anything to make you happy and keep you safe," he said lovingly, and my heart started doing a weird, erratic movement. "Be still, my heart. Why Jasmine, though? Is it because it's the name of my wolf?" I asked. "That and what the flower represents," he smiled at me. "It represents love, purity, and sensuality. A perfect flower for my perfect queen." He gave a boyish grin, and my cheeks flamed up. "Thank you very much, Adrian. That's very thoughtful of you. I love it." I returned his grin with one of mine, and we just stood there staring at each other. I was mesmerized by the beautiful green and hazel of his eyes. It gives the feel of the forest and a stormy sky, yet I feel balanced between the 2 components. "Are you guys going to stand there all day?" Rose said from behind us. I was startled and tried to move away from him, but he held me in place. "If you were not going to take her outside the house, you shouldn't have woken up early to prepare for your date." She smiled at us while Adrian groaned in frustration. "Mom, she wasn't supposed to know I woke up early for this. You did so well until now," he whined and pouted, and I chuckled at how adorable he looked. "Oops, I'm so sorry," she apologized before she ran up the stairs. "Who knew the big bad alpha has such a romantic side to him?" I teased him, and the tip of his ears became red with embarrassment. I laughed and he became redder. "Ah, so adorable." "Shall we?" he asked after some moments, and I nodded my head eagerly. I was so excited to see what he had planned for me that he lost his sleep over it. We stepped out of the house together, hand in hand. Jasmine howled happily in my head. The energy in the air was contagious. Instead of walking towards the center of the pack, he led me towards the forest. I looked at him in confusion, but he squeezed my hands in assurance, and I decided to trust him. We kept walking deep into the forest, and I became slightly alarmed. There was no other soul around save the rabbits and occasional birds. "You're not going to kill me, right?" I asked him with a nervous smile. "Of course not." He stopped in his tracks and faced me. "I'd never hurt you, baby. Not anymore," he said, pain and hurt evident in his eyes, and I felt bad. "Well, we've been walking for a while now, and there's no one around." I motioned around the forest with my hands before looking back at him. "Yeah, I know. I promise you that you're going to like it," he pleaded with me. I nodded before he held my hands and continued. "We should have gone in our wolf form." He spoke again. "I never knew it was this far in human form." He huffed, and I chuckled softly, which made him smile in return. "I think we're almost there," I said when I heard sounds of water gently moving. He looked at me in surprise, but I shrugged. I wasn't ready to tell him I could hear almost every sound in the forest. We walked for a while before he led us to the place where I heard water moving. I gasped as I took in the beauty of the place. The sun was shining on one part of the slowly moving water, making it look so beautiful. Towards the edge of the water, mats were laid down with picnic baskets on top of them. Despite the hot sun, the trees surrounding the area casted shade over half of the water, and the place we were going to sit was so cool. "You like it?" Adrian asked as he placed his hands on my waist, and I nodded with enthusiasm. "It's so pretty." "Thank you, Adrian." I turned in his arms to give him a quick peck on his lips before running towards the water, leaving him with a grin on his face. He stood there looking at me for a while before joining me beside the water. "I'll set out the food I brought," he whispered in my ears, and I nodded. I decided to go help him, and he brought out an array of dishes, snacks, and fruits, leaving me wowed. He really went all out for the picnic. We had just sat down when his eyes suddenly glazed over. He growled loudly, and I became worried. "What's the matter, Adrian?" I asked quietly. He took a deep breath before he answered me. "A pack member was killed at the border," he breathed out. Just when I thought my gut feeling this morning was wrong, Lola's POV. A pack member was killed at the border. His words kept ringing in my ears, and I felt weighed down. If only I had listened to my instincts, it might have been avoided. I couldn't even protect one person. How was I supposed to protect the whole wolf world? "There was nothing we could have done, Lola," Jasmine said sadly through our mind link. "We're just getting used to this whole thing. It's going to take time." She tried to reassure me, but I believed it was my fault. "Lola, baby, can you hear me?" Adrian's voice brought me to the present, and I realized that he was starting to pack up the food we did not get to eat. Another ruined time with my mate. This person better be ready for what is coming for them. Yeah, of course. We should pack up and go see what happened," I said as I started packing up too. Adrian held my hands and made me look into his eyes. "I promise to make it up to you soon," he said sadly. I nodded at him with a smile, and we continued packing up all that he prepared. "It took us a while to get here. We should get going so that we can get back faster," I urged him when he stared off into space. "I'll change into my wolf form so we can get there faster. You'll be okay to ride on my back, right?" he asked, and I nodded unsurely. I wasn't sure I'd be able to stop Jasmine from showing her true color. Have mercy, moon goddess. The moment he started unbuttoning the rest of his buttons, I turned my back on him, not before I got a glimpse of his toned abs. He chuckled, and my cheeks became warm with embarrassment. He definitely did it on purpose. I heard cracking of bone before a wet nose nudged the back of my leg. I turned around slowly and was met a pure black wolf with a darker shade of interchanged green and hazel eyes. I slowly ran my hand through his fur, and he purred like a kitten, making me chuckle softly. I've never seen a more magnificent wolf, and it wasn't until he started nudging me again that I remembered why we had to go in the first place. I picked his clothes and folded them on top of the basket. He lowered himself onto the ground, and I gently climbed him before adjusting the basket on my laps. He made a worried sound. I patted his head and whispered, "I'm fine." "We can go now." I held onto the fur on the soft part of his neck, and he goes off without warning. It felt so amazing to breeze past the trees very fast. The wind in my hair was amazing, and I had to close my eyes because I was getting dizzy a bit. It was an amazing experience. He took us to where the body was found, only stopping when we reached there. He picked up his folded clothes with his teeth and came back 2 minutes later, fully dressed. The scent of blood was so strong in the air, I almost gagged. Just how gory was the scene for blood to be so strong in the air? I almost went down on my knees in tears when I saw the body, if not for Adrian that held me up. Nobody deserved to be killed in such cruel way. It was obvious he was stabbed in the neck before the wickedness that was done to him. His heart was carved out and placed in a wooden box that was placed next to him. A warrior came to where we were standing and held out a placard that reeked of blood. "We found this on his body, Alpha?" He bowed and gave him the placard before moving away from him a bit. Adrian growled, and I made to check what was on the placard, but he moved away from me. "No, baby, it's not something you should see," he said pleadingly, but I wasn't having any of it. If I was going to be ruling alongside him, I want to be involved in everything that concerns the pack. Let me see that placard, Adrian, or I swear to the moon goddess there'll be consequences, I said with anger and pain. I did not know where the anger was coming from, but I did not care in that moment. Jasmine was growling impatiently in my head also. When he saw that I wasn't going to relent, he showed it to me and my heart almost stopped. I'll come for you soon, my queen. Take this token as a display of my love for you. I'll stop at nothing to make sure you're mine, the placard read. First, it started as fear and slowly turned into rage. I just stood there breathing heavily, and the storm inside me kept enraging uncontrollably. The weather that was once sunny became cloudy and thunder rumbled incessantly. I couldn't control how I felt. Different emotions surged through me the more the thunder rumbled: fear, determination, and most importantly, rage. Adrian gently pried the placard away from my hands and held me close to himself. The rage in me slowly died down, replaced by sadness and guilt. He gave instructions to Nathan and the warriors on standby and carried me back to the house. We were met with a glum-looking Rose and Jaden. "Let's talk, son," Jaden said to Adrian. Rose came to me, go lead me to sit, but I refused. "I want to be involved in this talking too," I voiced out confidently. "Baby, it's about pack issues. You should just rest and stay with Mom while we discuss." Adrian tried to cajole me, but I knew it wasn't going to work. "Exactly why I have to be there. If it's regarding the people I'll be ruling over, I want to be involved in everything," I said with my hands crossed over my chest. Jaden looked at me with pride before nodding his head. "Let her come, son," he spoke before turning towards the direction of his office. Without waiting for Adrian, I followed after him. I won't hide anymore. I won't be a prey anymore. It's time I stood up for myself and also saved my people. A lot is on the line if I failed, and that's exactly why I won't stop at nothing until this is behind us. I won't stop until I emerge victorious, even if it meant using the last of my breath. Adrian's POV. I was shocked by her sudden outburst. Just a few days ago, she did not have any idea about what she was. She wasn't even ready to take on the role when it was brought up, and now she wants to be involved in everything relating to the pack. She should know about all the developments. The future of our pack is in her hands after all, Dad said through our mind link before he told her she could join us and turn towards his office. She did not wait for me before she sashayed after him. I took a deep breath and followed after them. "I don't like the idea of our mate being the center of war," Daxon said in my head, and I totally agreed with him. "Me too, buddy. Me too." She was already seated opposite Dad when I later entered the room. "We need to wait for Nathan and Aaron," Dad said when he saw me take a seat beside Lola. I nodded and we waited in silence. Aaron is Dad's beta and best man. He's also Nathan's father, which was why Nathan automatically became my beta, and we forged a strong friendship. "I'm so sorry we took a while. We had to wrap things up at the border," Aaron said as he entered the office with Nathan right behind him. His face lit up when he saw Lola, who was suddenly on alert. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Luna." Aaron bowed his head slightly in her direction. She bowed in return, lightly fidgeting with her fingers. "What is she doing here?" Nathan's voice sounded in my head. "She said she deserves to be here since everything going on is about her and Dad agreed," I replied, anger underlying my words. "I know I said I was going to support her through everything, but now that she's actually taking steps towards it, I want to protect her and shield her from the oncoming war." "Full report on what happened at the border, Nathan," Dad said, drawing me out of my thoughts. "Yes, Alpha?" He bowed before he continued. "The border patrols were the ones that noticed the body at the north border and alerted me, so I informed Adrian immediately. I was informed too. We couldn't catch any scent, neither did we see any traces, just the heart in the box and the note that was left behind. It was like they vanished without a trace," he finished, and I sighed. "Another dead end, just like the last time." "I caught a scent," Lola said so low I almost didn't catch it. Thinking I hear her wrong, I asked her what she said. "I caught a scent, the last time at the cabin and today also, but it was faint," she repeatedly a little bit loudly. "Why didn't you tell us?" Nathan asked, and I glared at him. "She would talk. He doesn't need to rush her." I did not know I was the Moon Wolf then, so I chalked it up to the fear I felt when I saw the writing on the door. And today it was so faint I almost missed it, but it was still there. She finished, and we all sat back in surprise. She sniffed something. Even the Alpha King couldn't sniff. She's one hell of a wolf. I felt pride surge through me at that thought. My mate is so amazing. I looked at her in awe and adoration and saw her become slightly pink. So cute. What was the smell like? Dad asked her. It smelt like a dead rat, but worse, she answered and furrowed her brows as if deep in thought. Before I got to this pack, I've smelled something like that before, but I can't remember where I smelled it, she said to herself, but we all heard anyways, thanks to werewolf hearing. Rogues, Dad growled, and my hands clenched and unclenched involuntarily. Those darned creatures. The room was silent for a while until Aaron spoke up. I think they're using a witch to mask their scent. A black witch must be on their side, he said, and we all agree. We have Serena on our side. That should be enough to counter them, no? My innocent mate asked. We don't know the kind of power such wolf wields. We don't know who else they have on their side. The only thing we know is that their bastard leader wants you, and I'll be damned if I let that happen before I die. I growled in anger. Nobody is going to take her from me. I have waited for 8 years to have her beside me. I wasn't going to let the same people that made me waste time before I got close to her take her away from me. Till we figure out what to do, let's strengthen the patrols at the border, and no warrior should go on patrol alone. They must be in groups, Dad said, and we were dismissed after a while. Dinner that night was solemn and sad. After clearing up the dishes with Lola, she excused herself and I followed after her. To my surprise, she stopped when she got to the front of my room instead of going towards hers. Is something wrong, baby? I moved towards her and turned her so she was facing me. Can I stay in your room tonight? I don't want to sleep alone, not after what I saw today, she whispered the last part. I'm so sorry you had to see that, baby, I started. If I had known that it was going to be quite gory, I'd have dropped you at the house first, I said, but she shook her head in disagreement. No, it was just right that I saw it. If innocent people are going to Keo losing their lives because I didn't take in my calling seriously, I would rather take my life so it can all die down. Her voice broke towards the end, and I held on to her tightly. I wasn't going to let go, no matter what. We'll figure it out together, baby. You should rest for now. I led her towards my room and gave her my clothes to change into. She looked so hot in it, but I calmed myself down. It wasn't time to take the relationship to that level. I want to start training in the morning, she said in between yawns, and I patted her head. We'll see about that in the morning. For now, you should rest, baby, I told her, and her breathing even out after a while. I'm never letting you go or putting you in harm's way ever again, I promised to her, sleeping form before I drifted off to sleep myself. Lola's POV. I woke up before Adrian and took in his facial features. He looked so peaceful and handsome. His hair was starting to fall across his face. He probably needs a haircut. Not that I'd mind if he allows his hair to grow out. I resisted the urge to run my fingers across his cheeks because I did not want to wake him up. I gently pried myself from him, stopping when he moved in his sleep. I waited for his breath to even out again before I further tried to detangle myself from him. I was surprised that he did not wake up all through, but I was also thankful because he would have stopped me and I had what I had to do. Once I had successfully closed the door of his room behind me, I took a deep breath before running to my room. Why did we leave so soon? Jasmine whined in my head once I had closed the door to my room. We have things to do, Jasmine. The whole werewolf world depends on us. We can't flop, I tiredly answered. I also wanted to be with my mate, but there's a lot on the line, and I have to sacrifice my joy and happiness if that's what will save the people I've grown to love here. I brushed my teeth and got dressed to go and work out. I needed to work on myself first. I stopped in front of Adrian's door and contemplated telling him I was going to the basement to work out, but decided against it. He'd find me. With that in mind, I went into the basement and started working out with headphones plugged in. I have a lot to work on. Adrian's POV. I woke up with a smile and light mind. Despite what was going on, I got to sleep in the arms of my mate yesterday night. I reached out to pull her into me, but I found the bed empty. My eyes sprung open and I sat up. I looked around the room, but she wasn't there. I listened for any sound, but only the sound of Mom hitting the pots together reached my hair. She's probably downstairs with Mom, I thought. I was a bit disappointed I did not wake up to her pretty face, but I can live with that. I brushed my teeth, took a shower, and dressed casually to go and have breakfast. "Good morning, Mom," I greeted her as I entered the dining area where she was setting the table. I was so eager to see Lola, but she wasn't there. Maybe Mom sent her on an errand. "Good morning, son. Where's Lola? I thought you guys would come down together since you spent the night together." Mom teased and wiggled her brows suggestively, but that did not really register in my mind. "She was gone when I woke up this morning. I thought she'd be with you," I replied her, my heart starting to beat erratically. If she wasn't downstairs, where could she be? Mom stopped what she was doing and looked at me. "What do you mean she's supposed to be downstairs? I haven't seen her this morning either," she said in a panicked voice. I sniffed the air and her scent was still staring in the air. I turned around and went down to the basement, suddenly remembering that she said she wanted to start training again in the morning. I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw her working out with headphones plugged on. I walked towards her and pulled her into a hug from the bag, startling her. Before I could say a word, I was on my back and my ribs hurt like hell. She removed her headphones and placed it in a nearby bench before rushing towards me. "Oh my goddess, I'm so sorry," she muttered as she knelt down beside me. "Remind me to never hug you out of the blues," I groaned out, but she did not laugh. She looked super worried and kept on apologizing. I tried to raise myself to pull her into me and stop her worrying, but it was proving to be difficult. I'm an alpha wolf, which means I healed 5 times the rate other werewolves do, but it was taking a while. She placed her hands on my ribs that were hurting and looked like she was about to cry. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you." She closed her eyes and allowed a tear to fall. I was about to talk when a white light started emitting from her palm that was on my broken rib. She suddenly gasped and raised her head. Her eyes were glowing so bright, and I got another shock of my life when my broken ribs became healed, and there wasn't any pain. She realized what she did and pulled her hands away from my body. We both looked at each other. She looked at me in question, and I looked at her in pride. "I think you're slowly unleashing your powers, baby. You just healed me," I said with a big grin on my face, while she looked at her hands in amazement. Unknown's POV. I paced my room as I awaited feedback from one of my men. The door suddenly opened and he came in. He bowed his head and I responded with a wave of my hand. "How's it going? Any new informations?" I asked eagerly, and he nodded. "Yes, King. Her powers are developing. It's only a matter of time before she realizes her full potential," he said with his head bowed. "You can go. Keep me updated on every little thing about her. Tell the messenger that failure to uphold their end of the deal will lead to the termination of their life," he nodded before he stepped out of my room. Finally, it wouldn't take long to reach her full potential. Then I'd take her and make her mine. If only Father was alive to see me come this far without his guidance, he'd have been proud of me. Lola's POV. Wow, this is so cool, I thought as I looked at my hands in amazement. I did not mean to harm Adrian at all. He just happened to walk up to me when I was not aware of my surroundings. He looked really hurt, and my observation was confirmed when he tried to move and winced in pain. I just wanted him to be fine. I wasn't thinking when I placed my hands on his broken ribs. I was responsible for hurting my mate, and the guilt weighed me down. I was surprised when I felt a surge of electricity run through me and white light shone from my palm. Adrian looked shocked before it changed to a look of pride. Oh geez, I just unlocked my powers. I looked at my hands in amazement and looked up when I saw Adrian get up without showing signs of pain. He offered his hand to me, but I hesitated in taking it. "I don't want to hurt you again," I whispered, and he chuckled. "Baby, you were able to get me because I wasn't prepared to be attacked." He gave me a reassuring smile, and I put my hand in his. "You're really improving, baby. Not any wolf can easily overpower me, even in my relaxed state. I'm so proud of you, baby," he said once he pulled me up. "I learnt from the best, so what did you expect?" I flipped my ponytail, and we both laughed. The sound of his laughter made me want to jump his bone. He's so perfect and amazing, and I suddenly wanted to complete the mate bond. Just because the fate of the werewolf world is in my hands doesn't mean I can't have a little time with my mate, right? He must be feeling the same way too, because his eye color suddenly became a tad darker and filled with lust. He pulled me closer to him, and I noticed his eyes kept going to my lips, making me lick them in anticipation of what's to come. "Don't do that," he whispered huskily. "Do what?" I questioned, like I did not know exactly what he was talking about. "I'm going to kiss you now, you don't mind, right?" Unable to answer because my voice betrayed me, I nodded my head. He did not waste any more time before he locked lips with me. This time around, it felt different. The rush of electricity running through me increased, and I moaned into the kiss. I did not have anything to blame this time, not the heat, not Jasmine. I was purely acting on my instincts, and I was loving every moment of it. He pulled me impossibly closer while I held on to the back of his neck to deepen the kiss. We broke the kiss after a while, but he still held on to me. "That was different," he whispered, and I nodded. "I feel strange." I looked at his face, and they were strange indeed. I could see hints of the blue of my eyes in his hazel one and hints of gold in his green one. "Your eyes are strange." That I told him, and led him towards a nearby mirror. "Look closely and you'll see," I told him. He peered into the mirror and seemed surprised when he finally saw what I saw. "I think this was what Celine meant when she said we would grow together," I said. He suddenly broke into a smile and turned towards me. "I now have something to always remind me of you when I look into the mirror," he said excitedly, and I got excited from his excitement. "Mother must be wondering where I went to. She was worried when I told her I couldn't find you when I woke up," he said. "I told you I was going to start working out in the morning before I slept, didn't I? Maybe it was my imagination." "You did," he pouted. "I was just alarmed when I did not see you beside me nor with Mom in the kitchen because I forgot you said so for a while." He pulled me back into him and sniffed my hair. "Please write a note for me next time. And also," he pulled back from me a bit, "you should wash your hair." With that, he ran towards the door, and I ran after him. "Hey, stop right there. I washed it yesterday," I shouted as I ran after him, making him laugh too. We ran into the kitchen and met Rose and Jaden sitting at the dining area. Rose looked at us with her eyebrows raised, and my cheeks became red from being caught acting like a child. It was Adrian. I rushed out before she could talk, and she just shook her head at me. "Go and freshen up and come have a bite," she dismissed me. I went up to my room, hearing Adrian laughing after me. I took my bathe, washed my hair, definitely not because of what Adrian said, and dressed up in a cute playsuit. I left my hair down to dry and went downstairs to eat. I was surprised to see that Adrian did not eat until I came down to eat. We ate in silence, only exchanging glances and smiles. After cleaning up, he said he was going into his office to work on some papers, and I followed after him. His office had a library, so I took a walk around and looked for books to read. I was about to give up when a book caught my attention. The Prophecy of the Moon Wolf was written boldly on it. I picked it and sat down on the floor to read it. I was amazed to learn a lot of things about myself and the prophecy that I was supposed to fulfill. How come I knew nothing about this before? I asked myself. "You were deprived of schooling after a while." Jasmine responded. I sighed and continued reading until I got to a part that made me very excited. I placed the book back on the shelf and went to where Adrian was working. Adrian looked up when he sensed me and gave me a smile. "Bored?" he asked, but I shook my head. "I want you to mark me, Adrian." Lola's POV. "I want you to mark me, Adrian." He looked at me like I had grown another head, and I started thinking it was a bad idea. "Did you just ask me to mark you?" he asked, and I shook my head. "Forget I said anything, it was a bad idea. Just forget it." I rushed out before turning in the direction of the library aisle that I emerged from, my cheeks on fire. What was I thinking asking him to mark me? I knelt down with my back facing the direction I came from, as held my head in my hands. I froze when I heard him behind me. "Please go away, please go away." I chanted over and over in my head, but he did not go away. "Why won't he go away?" "Baby," his voice came from behind me. I could also feel his body heat behind me, so I curled into myself more. "You can't see me. Go away." My voice came out muffled, and he chuckled. "I see you perfectly well, baby. You don't need to hide from me," he said while pulling me into his body, making him fall on the floor while I fell on top of him. "Why are you suddenly so shy, huh?" he chuckled, and I hid myself in his chest, my cheeks flaming further. "What was that about marking?" "You can talk to me, baby," he asked, but I shook my head in disagreement. "It's not necessary. I just read it in a book, but it was stupid to say it." My reply came out muffled. "What did you see in the book?" "I want to know. Show it to me," he asked, but I did not move from where I was on his chest. "You know you can't stay like this all day, my queen." He laughed at my sake, and I sluggishly got up, hiding my face from him. I went to pick the book where I placed it. I opened it to the page that prompted me and handed it over to him. His face changed from confused to understanding after he read through the page. I actually thought it might be true, since what happened with Faye happened after we spent the night together. The memory of what happened during my heat hit me like a truck, and my face heated up. I did not need to look up at Adrian to see that he was trying to hold back his laughter. "And?" he asked after clearing his throat. "Well, this morning I seem to be stronger. I'm attributing it to the fact that we spent the night together yesterday." I looked up and pointed at his eyes. "You also saw what happened to your eyes after we kissed this morning," I finished. "So you want me to mark you so that we can reach our full potential quickly?" he asked me, and I nodded my head. "No, I won't," he said with anger in his voice, and went back the way he came. I dropped the book on a random shelf and followed after him. "But why? We're doing it for the people. The future of everyone depends on us. I don't want to lose anyone if I can. I want to keep everyone safe, Adrian. Try to understand me," I said after him. He stopped abruptly, making me bump into his back. He turned around and made me look into his eyes. "Baby, I understand you. What I don't want to understand is why such responsibility is on your shoulder." He took a breath before he continued. "I'm proud of your progress as a person. You've grown so much from the girl that came into this pack, and while it hurts me that I am the reason for such growth, I'm super proud of you," he said while rubbing my cheeks, and I nodded. I wondered where he was going with his talks. Then I realized my mistake, and I'm trying to make it up to you, but all you're worried about is the oncoming war. What about us, Lola? I hate the fact that everything is taking your attention away from me. I can't help but be angry at everything. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Now you're asking me to mark you, not because you really want me to, but because of the war. I don't want to mark you for that reason, baby. I want to mark you because you really want it, not for any other reason. Please understand me too," he finished, and I felt like a jerk for asking him in the first place. "I did not think about it like that. I'm so sorry," I whispered into the air around us. "I've been so busy thinking about everyone, I forgot that we still have ourselves to work on." I sighed as I removed myself from him and went to sit on the couch in the office. "It's just that I have a lot on the line right now. I feel pressured, and it's so obvious that whoever wants to take me won't hesitate to keep hurting pack members until he gets me." I tried to rein in my tears, but they kept threatening to fall. "I don't want to be the reason everyone dies, Adrian. I won't be able to live with myself." The tears that I had been holding in fell uncontrollably. "Hey, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I was too focused on wanting to have you to myself. I did not see the bigger picture," he muttered as he held me to his chest. We stayed like that for a while until I pulled back from him and looked him in the eyes. "You know what? You're right. I shouldn't allow myself to be so weighed down by the upcoming war." I smiled at him as I said the next words that came to mind. "Let's go on that date again. This time, no distractions, just us." Lola's POV. "Are you for real?" he asked after I said what I said. I nodded my head, giving him a watery smile through my tears. He returned it with a real smile and hugged me again. After he pulled back, he wanted to look at my face, but I looked away. Don't look at me, I probably look ugly with my tear-stricken face. Like a broken tomato. I covered my face with my hands. I was expecting him to laugh, but he didn't. Instead, he pried my hands away from my face and gave me a serious look. "You'll always look pretty to me no matter what. Don't ever call yourself ugly again, okay? He said with so much emotions in his eyes, and I nodded. We're going on the date tomorrow. No plans will be made. You'll be the one to choose where to go. My duty is to follow your instructions and make tomorrow a day you'll never forget in the history of our love. He gave me a boyish grin, and my heart melted. If only he hadn't been a jerk earlier, Jasmine sighed dreamily in my head. We'd have had the sweetest man in the wolf world to ourselves earlier, she sighed, and I totally agreed with her. I've always thought you were a meanie and proud person, I blurted out without thinking, and he looked at me with crease on his forehead, his eyebrows furrowed in confusion. Was it because I ignored you when you arrived and treated you the way I did? He asked. He continued before I could answer him, I promise you that all my actions had reasons. Looking back, they were stupid reasons, but I promise to explain everything. I hope you'll understand me after I explain to you, he finished, sadly. I felt my heart breaking for him. He looked totally sad and regretful. I wasn't talking about what you did to me, though, I said in hopes of lifting his mood. Oh, what were you referring to? He asked while scratching the back of his neck adorably. I was talking about the other pack members. You barely relate with them, and they do not have access to their future alpha. I only said what I've heard them say about you, I finished, and he sighed. I promised to do better. His eyes held so much sincerity, and I nodded. I'm also going to do my best to make us work out. That further strengthened my resolve to make sure we win this war. I can't lose this new life that promised me happiness. I waited 8 years to have it, and I won't let any psycho snatch it from me. We stayed in the office until Rose mind-linked Adrian, and we went to have lunch. The rest of the day was uneventful, and it went by. Dinner also went by without any major event. When it was time to call it a night, I refused to go to my room and entered Adrian's room without waiting for his permission. I see that you don't want to sleep in your room anymore, Adrian said with a smile on his face when I came out of his bathroom dressed in another one of his shirts. Do I hear you complaining? I asked with my hands on my waist. He made the motion of locking up his mouth and throwing the keys away. That simple gesture elicited a giggle from me, and I went to lay beside him on the bed. He pulled me into his side and dropped a kiss on my forehead. This made me warm and fuzzy inside, and I felt myself drifting off to sleep. Good night, my queen, was the last thing I heard before I slept off. The next morning, I woke up in a happy mood. Yay! Date day! I looked towards Adrian's side of the bed to find him looking at me already. My face heat up, and I hid it in the pillow. Looking like a ripe tomato already? It's just 6 a.m., baby. He laughed lightly, and I rolled my eyes at him. I want Daxon. Daxon wouldn't be so mean to be, I said just to spite him, and he stopped laughing immediately. Jealous of your own wolf? I asked between fits of laughter at his face. He looked somewhat mad. I closed the space between us and dropped a kiss on his lips before trying to scramble away. Keyword, try. He was faster than me and grabbed my waist, making me shriek with laughter. You're going to pay for what you did, he said before he started tickling me. I was laughing so hard from the tickling, I almost peed my panties. Suddenly, an image of little me being tickled by an older man while a baby giggled with joy in a woman's arms from across the room appeared to me. Daddy, the little me shrieked happily. The scene suddenly changed, and it was little me covered in blood, screaming for my parents and little brother. My breathing became labored as the screaming got louder. I felt myself being shaken, but I couldn't get out of the memory. I heard Adrian's voice in a distance, and I latched to it to bring myself to the present. Hey, you're okay. I'm here for you. Look at me, baby. His voice became clearer as I calmed down. He looked worried, and I hugged him immediately. I was calm. It wasn't until my face touched his top that I realized that I've been crying. What was that about? Did I trigger a bad memory in you? He asked, and I sighed. I seriously have no idea what just happened, I muttered into his chest. We're canceling the date, he started. We can go another time. I shook my head and sat back on the bed. No, we're going on that date, I argued. In fact, I've picked out the place I want to go. Be ready before 10 a.m. I stood up from the bed and made my way to the door. I was about to open the door when he called out, Where exactly are we going? He asked in confusion. Human Town, I answered. opened the door, and closed it without looking at his facial expressions. I needed answers, and I was going to get it. Lola's POV. The ride into the town was silent but comfortable. We did not need to talk to fill the void between us. Our silence was peaceful. The only sound in the car was the one coming from the radio that was on. His hand that was on mine did not leave till we got to the center of the town. We were almost there when my phone dinged. I opened it, and it turned out to be Lila. "Yo, wanna hang out today? Feels like eternity since we saw your face," the message read, and I smiled. Adrian growled from beside me, and I rolled my eyes at him before texting Lila back. "I'm out of town with Adrian presently. I'll let you know when we get back," I replied to her before switching off my phone. Nothing was going to come in between my mate and I today. "Who was that?" Adrian asked when I dropped my phone back in my bag. "Jealous, are we?" I teased him, and he ground his jaw together, making me giggle. "I like this Adrian. He gives me butterflies in my belly." "Of course not. I'm definitely not jealous of anything. I just want to know who you're speaking to that made you smile," he grumbled out, and I started laughing loudly, making him pout adorably. "Oh my goddess, you're so adorable. Of course you're not jealous, you're just curious," I said to him, and the tip of his ear became red. Who knew he was so easy to mess with? "So who were you talking to?" he asked after a while. "Lila. She wanted to meet up, but I told her I was out of town." He nodded and concentrated on the road. "We are here," he said when we reached the mall I directed him to. He came to open the door for me and held my hand as I got out. "Where to first, my lady?" he asked with a fake accent, making me burst out laughing. "What's that accent?" I asked, still laughing, and he joined me. We got glances from passers-by, but I didn't care. I was enjoying just being in the presence of my mate. Just when I was about to answer, my stomach rumbled. I covered my face with my palms, and he pulled me away from the car before he closed the door. "I know exactly where we are going," he said as he pulled me to the mall. "How did I forget to feed you?" he muttered to himself as he kept moving. "You were too excited for our date," I said under my breath, but his alpha ears picked it up. He glared at me, and I made the motion of zipping up my lips. It's best not to poke a wolf on a mission. He found a place for us and went to order food for us. I was amazed when he brought the food. There was so much food, and I knew I couldn't finish half of it. "Why did you get so much when there's just the two of us?" I asked, still looking at the platter in amazement. "I did not know what you'd like, and you seemed pretty hungry, so I got almost everything I saw," he replied, scratching the back of his neck. "Well, I can't fit all of these in my tiny body." I gestured to my body as I spoke, and he chuckled. "It's a good thing you have me to help you fit it in my body then," he said as he came to sit beside me. "Now dig in." I smiled at him before I started eating. The first bite tasted like heaven, and I moaned a little. Adrian let out a groan beside me, and I looked at him with a raised brow. "If you keep doing that, I might not be able to keep my promise of taking you only when you're ready. You're driving me insane, and Daxon is barely holding on." He whispered huskily into my ears, and I involuntarily clenched my thighs. I cleared my throat and stuffed my face with food to stop the heat from spreading across my face, but it was futile, and he laughed a little before he started eating too. After we finished eating, I felt like I was going to burst and had to unbutton my pants. Adrian did not seem to be affected, even though he ate the majority of the food. I looked at him in awe, and he gave me a boyish smile. "How are you still functioning?" I asked with labored breathing. Okay, maybe I was exaggerating, but I still felt so full, and he was the one who forced me to eat so much, so I was being a bit dramatic. "You're just being dramatic," he chuckled, and I glared at him. "I know what will make you feel okay," he said, and I sat up to hear him. "What's that?" I asked eagerly. "I saw a park on our way here. We should go there and check it out. It will be an avenue to get to know what you like and also burn the food you ate," he said. I clapped excitedly and nodded. He took my hands and led me out of the food court. As we entered the parking lot, I felt like I was being watched and looked around, but I did not see anything out of place. I did not know I had stopped until Adrian tugged on my hand. "Is anything the matter, baby?" he asked, and I shook my head. "It's probably just in my head." I put on a smile and followed after him. Today is all about focusing on my mate and getting to know him, not worrying about things that are out of place. He drove us to the park, and I was amazed by what I saw. The park was filled with a lot of people. They seemed to be having some form of party, and the memories of coming here with Mom and Dad sparked in my head, bringing tears to my eyes. I got out of the car before Adrian could open the door for me, and we went into the park together. Lola's POV. I walked in front eagerly while Adrian followed behind me. I saw this huge ride that called out to me. I tugged on his arm and excitedly pointed to the ride. "You want to go on that?" he asked, and I eagerly nodded. "Let's get you on it then." He flashed me a smile before grabbing my hand and pulling me towards the booth where we got the tickets. "Why do you want to go on the ride?" he asked, while we waited for the ride to stop so we could get on. "I just feel like I have memories connected to my parents on that ride," I shrugged. He nodded and did not say anything after that. The ride came, and I happily got on. The ride was fun, and it turned out that Adrian was scared of it. He just got on because I wanted to. He screamed out his lungs and was so quick to get down when the ride finally stopped. While he was trying to get his composure, I was busy laughing at him. Who would have thought rides would make him scared? He glared at me the whole time I was laughing, but I did not care at that moment. After he calmed down, he stood upright and turned towards the large wheel. "I'm never getting on that again," he mumbled, and I covered my mouth so I won't burst out laughing again. "I can definitely watch that all day," I said, and he turned to glare at me, but I pointed to a candy stand that got my attention. "Oh, that looks good," I said, and turned to look at him with a big smile on my face. His frown disappeared and he pulled me into him. "You're right. It sure looks good, and I definitely need some sugar after that ride," he said, and I giggled. I took his hand and pulled him towards the stand. The man at the stand gave us a big smile when we got there. "What can I get the lovebirds?" he asked, and I pointed towards one big cotton candy. "Or would you like to try our couple's special candy?" he asked, and I nodded excitedly. He took different colors of cotton candy and started pouring it bit by bit into the machine while making heart-shaped cotton candy with different colors. I clapped excitedly when he finally gave us the giant heart on 2 sticks. I shared it into 2 and gave Adrian 1/2 while I took the other half. I took the first bite, and it tasted like heaven. Adrian also seemed to like it. He paid, and we moved away from the stand. "I'm really glad you went on that ride with me despite your fear of it," I said as we walked around the park. "I'll do it again if it will make you happy, baby," he replied, and I nodded. "Does that mean you'll go on it now if I want to go again?" I asked teasingly. "Oh, hell no. Definitely not the ride." He spoke quickly, and I laughed, which he soon joined in. "Were you able to get memories of them on that ride?" he asked after a while. I nodded with a smile. "Yeah, I was." For 8 years, I gradually lost my memories with them until they became distant. Crescent Moon changed that for me. I was able to feel like I belonged somewhere again. I wasn't treated badly, and it has been a good experience for me, I finished with a sigh. "And I was just like your old pack until recently," he sighed sadly, and I turned to face him. "You were a jerk, yes. You were a big jerk, but you're also the reason I grew into the girl I am now. I never would have imagined that I would be strong enough to defend myself, not to talk of being the Moon Wolf." I grabbed his face in the middle of the park and made him look into my eyes. "What matters now is that you're here and you're trying to make up for your mistake, and that's fine by me, so stop beating yourself up," he nodded when I was done speaking. "And for 8 years, I thought I was an only child also. I wonder how I did not know that I had a sibling." I continued talking and walking in front of him. I stopped when I noticed that he wasn't following me. "Adrian?" I moved towards him and shook him a little when I noticed that he was out of it. "What's the matter?" I asked when he finally snapped out of it. He led me towards a somewhat quiet place in the park and made us sit there. I did not like the silence that surrounded us. I felt like he was going to give me bad news or tell me something I wouldn't like. "I had a younger sister too," he started, and I listened with rapt attention. "She died 8 years ago also." He finished, and my heart broke for him. It must have been hard for him to deal with. At least I had no idea I had a brother until recently. He knew his sister, and it must have been a hard pill to swallow. "If she were to be alive, she'd be around your age by now," he said with a sad smile, and I hugged him. "She'd have had my head on a plate if she could witness how I treated you. She was very fiery even at her young age," he laughed at the memory of her. "What happened to her?" I asked curiously. I never knew he had a sister. Nobody in the pack has ever talked about it, not even Lila and the girls. "Rogues. She was killed by rogues. A rogue I trusted and believed to be my mate killed her in my stead," he said, and a lone tear rolled down his left eye. Lola's POV. My heart broke more when I saw him in tears. Those motherfucking rogues. I pulled him closer and allowed him to rest his head on my chest while he cried. Every moment I saw his shoulders shake from grieving for his lost sister. The rage inside of me grew. I have to put an end to their menace. They already took a lot from me. Not only did they deprive me of a good life for 8 years, I had to go through heartbreak because of their actions. I lost my family and almost lost my mate too. Jasmine kept growling angrily in my head, and the weather suddenly changed. The sky kept rumbling, and it looked like it was about to rain. I did not realize Adrian had stopped crying until I felt him rubbing my back to calm me down. I gradually relaxed, and the soothing touch on my back helped calm Jasmine also. Hey, it's okay," Adrian said gently, and I hugged him tighter to me. "That's why you almost rejected me? Because I came into Crescent Moon Pack as a rogue?" I asked, after he had already raised his head from my body. He nodded before sighing. "I was such an idiot to believe that she was my mate. She came into the pack battered and beaten, and I fell for her the moment I saw her," he said. Jasmine growled in my head and threatened to take over, but I stopped her. "He fell for someone else on sight, but it took a near-death experience for him to acknowledge us." She growled angrily in my head. "That's what he's trying to explain. You have to calm down and allow us to hear him out. We're trying to make this work. Isn't that Rift?" She calmed down, and I was able to focus on Adrian that was in front of me. I believed she was my mate, but Daxon didn't. I was so sure I felt everything that Mom and Dad said I'd feel whenever I met my mate, but Daxon didn't feel the same. I'd do anything she requested from me because she was my mate, or so I thought. No one liked her, not Ariana, Mom, Dad, nobody liked her. And I thought they were all against us because she was a rogue, so I became distant from everyone and wouldn't want to hear anything they wanted to say. He took a deep breath and I patted his back. A month after I met her, she started acting strange, but I overlooked it. She was my mate after all, he continued. "What behaviors?" I asked curiously. She'd ask about the circumstances surrounding Ariana's birth. Ariana is the name of his sister. She wanted to know everything about her, which I found strange, but I chalked it up to just wanting to get to know about my family, he answered sadly. Ariana called me one day and said she had something to tell me concerning Enya, but I refused to hear her out. I had been brainwashed into thinking that anyone that had something to say about her did not like her and would try to pull us apart. Daxon warned me repeatedly that he did not feel anything for her as a mate. But I was so sure she was my ordained mate. It wasn't until I held Ariana's body as she took her last breath that I realized what stupid mistake I had made. He took a deep breath at this point, and I understood that it must be hard for him to talk about the death of his sister. "How did she die?" I asked. I wanted to know just what was done to such an innocent soul. Enya drove a knife through her heart. Another tear rolled down his face and he rushed to wipe it. She was caught in the action by Mom and was imprisoned. It was when she was in the dungeon that I came to know about her plans and how I fell right into it. She was sent to me as I was the next Alpha King. A witch made it possible for me to feel the mate bond with her, but Daxon wasn't affected. If only I wasn't so desperate to get a mate, I wouldn't have lost Ari, he whispered sadly, and I held him closer to my body. "It's okay if you want to stop talking about it, Adrian," I said gently, but he shook his head in disagreement. "I have to. I want to explain everything to you, baby," he muttered, and I nodded. After a while, he continued speaking. The plan was to abduct Ariana thinking she was the Moon Wolf because the Moon Wolf was supposedly birthed to a powerful family, but it all changed when they found out that the Moon Wolf was birthed to another pack. Her mission changed from abducting Ariana to killing me. How did she know that you did not have a mate initially? I asked again. I was really confused at this point. Everyone in the wolf world knew I was searching for my mate. It wasn't a private matter, baby, he answered. So who sent her? You asked her that much, right? I asked. At least they must have asked that before executing her. We did, but she couldn't answer, he answered. Why? She bled to death before she could answer. Some kind of magic forbade her from telling the truth, he breathed out. That was what spiked my hatred for rogues. They cost me my sister and I was on a rampage for a while. Daxon was out for blood and so was I, he said. That was what made me react the way I did when I found out you were my mate in the dungeon. Even though Daxon said you were my mate, I did not want to believe it, he finished sadly, and I sighed. I'd have been wary if I were him also. I totally understood where he was coming from. I stood up and he looked at me quizzically. We have to leave, I said, and he looked at me in question. Why? To see Serena. The earlier I can get answers to my questions, the earlier I'd be able to put these motherfuckers in their place. Lola's POV. We did not waste any more time in the park and drove back to the mall. It was already evening by the time we got there, and I was starting to think that Serena would have left, but her spa was still open when we got there. She was sitting in the reception sipping tea, almost like she was waiting for someone. Serena, I called when she did not look up to meet out eyes when we entered. She sighed and raised her hands towards the heavens like she was thanking them. Thank the moon goddess. I almost gave up on waiting for you. What took you so long? She asked as she got up to meet us. Adrian. She greeted him with a slight bow and he returned with one of his. Please have a seat. I prepared tea for us, although I almost finished it while waiting for you to get here. She gestured towards the table I met her resting at. I'll take it that you already know what I came here for, I said, but she ignored and kept filling our cups. I think it's still good, she retorted after taking a sip from the cup, totally ignoring my question. I marched towards her and she sighed before looking up from what she busied herself with. Oh dear, you might as well take a seat since you're near the chair, she gestured to the chair behind me before she continued filling the cups again. Adrian came to sit beside me. He put his hand on my leg that was shaking uncontrollably and gave it a squeeze. I smiled at him, and he nodded reassuringly at me. Serena took her time before she came to sit down. I sat up, and she smiled warmly at me. Now, Lola, relax and be comfortable. Serena, I need answers. I'm sure you already know why I'm here. Let's not waste any more time and go straight to the point, I started, while she took a sip of her tea before she nodded. Why am I suddenly having memories of my parents and brother that I didn't even know existed? Is this related to the war we're about to fight? What am I supposed to do to fully reach my potential? When exactly is the war going to take place? I fired rapidly at her. Wow, you sure have a lot of questions, she said, making me roll my eyes. I wasn't in the mood for all of her jokes. Adrian's story had further fueled me to do something about the raging psycho that wished to make me his. I'll start from the last question. The time the war will take place solely depends on you and what decisions you make in weeks, months, or probably years to come, she stated, and I nodded, even though I got more confused. My decisions? Is there anything relating to this war that doesn't come back to me being in the center of it all? Adrian must not have noticed my distress because he squeezed my legs again. To reach your full potential, it's pretty simple. She looked at Adrian as she spoke. You have to mark each other. She dropped, and it seemed like all the air in the room suddenly vanished. Everywhere was still, and we all seemed to hold our breath. Adrian, I know you don't want to agree to that, but it's the only way. The only way forward is gore you to grow stronger together, and what other way to do that than marking your mate and becoming one with them? She looked Adrian in the eye as she spoke. I heard him sigh beside me, and it was my turn to squeeze his legs. Concerning your parents' memories and suddenly remembering your brother, it's a clue to who killed your parents, which will in turn lead you to the person that's out to get you, she said, and then sipped her tea. I waited for her to say more, but she kept quiet. And what exactly might that clue be? I asked after a while. Your old pack, she replied. My old pack, I asked again, and she nodded her head. What has my old pack got to do with my powers? They did not even know I had a wolf. The only reason they treated me badly was because I was the cause of Mom and Dad's death, right? Or was it? Jasmine asked in my head, and I got more confused. Andrew and Natalie couldn't have been in on all of these, right? They were loyal to Mom and Dad. They wouldn't have done that to them. Yet, they switched on us the moment they died, Jasmine argued, and I felt rage boiling through me. They're going to pay dearly if they were ever part of the people that knew about what happened to Mom and Dad. I take it that we're done here, Serena said before she stood up, and with a wave of her hand, the cups on the table disappeared. Whenever you have any other questions, you can just summon me instead of going through the troubles of coming here, she said with a slight bow. Adrian bade her goodbye while I stepped into the already dark night. Do you still want us to go back tonight, or we could just find somewhere to stay, he said when he came out and stood beside me. Let's just stay around till tomorrow. I might have questions for Serena again in the morning, I said monotonously, and he nodded before leading me towards the car. We drove around for a while before we found a hotel. We went in and booked a room for both of us. Throughout the whole process, I felt like I was being watched, but I spoke it off. It was probably just me being paranoid. When we got to the room, we took turns showering and then slept off in each other's arms after all. I had a restless sleep that night. Unknown's POV. They just went into a room at the hotel. A voice came in through the receiver and I nodded. Keep me updated and let me know if there's a new development, I ordered before hanging up. I just need her to reach her full potential. Once she does, she'll be mine and no one will be able to stop me. With a smile on my face, I continued sipping my rum till I blacked out. Adrian's POV. I watched her body shake with rage as she asked the fake people in front of us questions. Everybody looked at them expectantly, and they must have realized that their secret has been leaked. The woman looked pale, but the man still maintained a strong front. He laughed tensely before giving a nervous smile. What? What are you talking about, Lola? I treated you like family and loved you like my own daughter. I don't get where this accusation is coming from. You're being unreasonable right now, he said shakily. I could hear how fast his heart was beating, and I almost laughed at his pathetic trial. I'm so sorry, Uncle Andrew. How stupid of me to think that you'd ever do such a thing to me. I must have lost my memories for a little while. Care to juggle my memory? She said calmly, and I saw fears in his eyes before he masked it. She walked majestically towards an empty chair and sat down while we waited for them to start talking. Daxon made a sound that showed that he was satisfied and proud in my head. I smirked at them before going over to sit beside her. She automatically held my hand, and I felt how much she was shaking despite her brave facade, and I couldn't be more proud of her. If you'd please, Dad said after a while, and he nodded before clearing his throat. He struggled with what to say for a while before Lola cut in. I see that you're having a hard time talking about that incident. It must have been hard on you. Am I right, Aunt Natalie, Uncle Andrew? She asked, and I could see that her rage was already trying to overcome her, so I squeezed her hand to calm her down a bit. The woman wrung her hands together more and looked like she was about to cry, but the man nodded. The nerves of the sly bastard. Daxon growled in my head as I resisted the urge to growl out loud. Yo, Daxon, chill out. We need to calm down for Lola. She wants to do this by herself and should be allowed to, I said, but Daxon still wasn't calming down. I couldn't blame him because left to me, I'd have torn them apart the moment I set my eyes on them. I'd ask you questions to speed this up, okay? She said with an air of authority, and even Dad looked proud of her. What happened to Mom and Dad? She asked with a death glare. The man relaxed and seemed to have everything under control. Silly Lola. They were killed by rogues, of course. This is a known tragedy in the wolf world, he replied. And he was right. That was the story everyone in the wolf world knew. It was during the time I lost my sister too, so we were not able to look into it. Those bastards planned it well. Do I have a younger brother? His eyes widened in shock at this question, and it took him a while to recover. No, of course not. You're an only child, Lola. How did you come up with these questions? he said with a nervous laugh, but Lola wasn't having any of it. The wind around us changed, and I knew Jasmine was in charge. They looked terribly terrified of the change in room, and Natalie, like Lola identified the woman, started crying. "Andrew, I'm going to give you another chance to redeem yourself, and you better not waste it," she said, almost intimidating me, but I knew it wasn't directed at me, so I relaxed. "Now, I ask again, what happened to my parents?" she asked with venom dripping from her words. "Lola, I already told you all that happened. I already told you everything. What more do you want me to?" He wasn't done with his words when Lola's hair suddenly started to spark and her eyes glowed brighter than they did the last time. Outside, the earlier sunny weather had changed to a thunderstorm, and I was wowed. I have never seen her so angry before. He was about to talk again when suddenly he was hit with a spark of lightning, causing him to cry out in pain. Lola was about to hit him with another one when Natalie began to speak. "I'd say it. I'd tell you everything you want to know. Please stop," she wailed and pleaded, but Lola was still glowing and breathing really hard. Hey, it's okay, baby. We need them alive to be able to question them, remember?" I cooed to her, and that was when she eventually calmed down. "Speak," she commanded, her voice echoing throughout the entire room. "What about him?" Natalie asked, pointing to her husband that was writhing in pain. "He caused me pain for 8 years. He should be able to withstand that for as long as your narration takes. If you don't want to be like him, I suggest you start speaking now," she said before she took her seat. Natalie looked at her mate before she started speaking. Yes, we know about the death of your parents," she sobbed out, and I felt Lola stiffen with anger beside me. "And yes, you had a brother. He died alongside your parents in the rogue incident," she confessed. From the corner of my eyes, I saw Mom cover her mouth with her hands and Dad was rigid with rage. "How old was he? Why wasn't he spared? Why did you do it?" Lola's voice broke towards the end, and I knew she was on the verge of breaking down. He was just 6 months, she stammered out, and the only thing that stood between her and death was that we needed to hear her confession. "You aided in the death of a 6-month-old?" Mom asked. I did not need to look at her to know that she was crying already. "If he had been spared, our secrets would have been leaked," she sobbed harder. Lola started crying beside me, and I held her to my chest. "These motherfuckers will pay dearly, I promise." "I'm sorry, Lola. I'm so sorry. We'd have been killed. All of us would have been wiped out," she kept repeating. "Why? Why did you do that? Mom treated you like a sister, and that was all you could do." She screamed in anger with tears streaming down her cheeks, and my heart broke for her. "We were threatened, Lola. There was nothing we could do." I'm so sorry," she kept crying. Who threatened you?" Dad asked, and we all listened carefully to hear her. "Elias. It was Elias Stone, the king of rogues.